City Council is now recessed from closed session for the purpose of conducting the regular city business. We will reconvene now to continue regular city business. Tonight we convene the Lake Forest Housing Authority and Successor Agency, the City Council, and we're convening concurrently for the purpose of conducting City Council, Lake Forest Housing Authority, and Successor Agency business, successor agency to the former Lake Forest Redevelopment Agency business. The meeting will run concurrently for the remainder of the agenda, and I'll mention that a few times tonight. So, tonight our invocation will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Adam Nick.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson, and thank you. I have always said, I say tonight, and I will say to the day I go to my grave, that I, for one, and I think we all, are indebted forever to the founders of this great country, to the founders of this great nation. Perhaps most influential of all, yesterday we celebrated his birthday. Their vision, what they did, truly, truly everlasting. I am certainly going to be grateful to them for as long as my heart beats. May God rest his soul. We are blessed and fortunate to live in a country that allows free speech and the ability to make individual choices. To that end, may we all have the wisdom to always say and do the right thing and make the right choice. May we who have the privilege and honor to serve the public always make the best decisions possible and render thoughtful solutions to ensure good public policy, to help provide for safe communities with the greatest quality of life. May the men and women who protect our country and our cities and ensure our safety and preserve the liberties we all hold so dear, be safe at all times. May we all always remember and have the freedom to celebrate and honor those who came before us and sacrificed their own well-being to ensure our freedoms and died in their relentless pursuit of equality. Equality, a great notion. I wish you all the best. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And Councilmember Voights will lead us in the pledge.
Please rise with me as we salute the greatest symbol of freedom in the face of this earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. City Attorney, was there anything to report out of closed session tonight?
Mr. Mayor Chair, there was no reportable action taken. Thank you.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve presentations.
So moved.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Agenda item 2, designation of the City of Lake Forest as a Purple Heart City, submitted by City Clerk.
Cities and counties around the nation have been designating as Purple Heart cities or counties. And tonight we're honored and blessed to have Lupe Sans. Lupe, if you'd come up to the mic here, and I'll join you there. Lupe, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service and thank you for representing the Purple Heart designation for Lake Forest. So, Specialist 4, Lupe Sans, Signs. He's a U.S. Army veteran, served in Vietnam from 1968 to 1969. He's also been a recipient of the Purple Heart Award on 2 occasions. He's a resident of Santa Ana, but he's representing the Purple Heart recipients of Orange County. And so tonight I'd like to present you with award or a certificate on behalf of the City of Lake Forest. And this is for you personally, for your service and in recognition of your 2 Purple Hearts. And we thank you very much for your service. So. Thank you. And then I'd also like to present one just for the chapter. Yeah, the chapter itself, and it just says, "The City of Lake Forest, as a Purple Heart City, in honor of all veterans who have suffered injury or death to secure the freedom of our nation for future generations. Recognizing Orange County as a home to more than 120,000 veterans, the 3rd largest veteran population in the state of California, and acknowledging all veterans who have made sacrifices for their county, having left their jobs, educational opportunities, and loved ones. The City of Lake Forest does hereby proclaim the city to be a Purple Heart City and further proclaims November to be the Purple Heart Month." And I would like to present you with this for the entire group. So thank you. Thank you. So, would you like to say a few words about?
Thanks for honoring the Purple Heart Piece. It's a big.
It's okay. Well,
Thank you for honoring.
well, thank you. And as you probably well know, this was founded really as a military town for many, many decades. We have a lot of veterans who live here in town, and I think there isn't a single person in town that doesn't really appreciate what you've done, and we just really are proud to be a part of this this proclamation, this designation as a Purple Heart City, and we thank you for representing the group. So thank you. Thanks again. All right. At this time, we'll take a report from our student liaison from El Toro High School. Big basketball game coming up this Friday night.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Jeff Dominic from El Toro High School reporting on February 8th, 2014. February 18th, sorry. On February 8th, students made their way to the Marconi Automotive Museum for the Blue and Golden Globes Winter Formal Dance 2014. This has been talked about as one of the best formals ever and was definitely full of fun and friends. This year's Winter Formal royalty are the following. Sophomore Prince and Princess are Daniel Parker and Darian Taylor. Junior Prince and Princess are Joseph Schottmiller and Katie Jones, and Senior King and Queen are Kevin Keenan and Carly Wilkie. Congratulations to all of our new El Toro royalty. El Toro's 10th annual Dodgeball Tournament is almost here, with sign-ups ending this week. Games will begin during snack and lunch starting the 26th, where last year's champions look to defend their title. The 10 Mr. Charger contestants have completed learning their opening dance and now begin to practice their unique talents for the talent portion of the show. The pageant will take place at El Toro's Charger Hall on Friday, March 7th. Huge congratulations to our winter sports teams for their outstanding performances in their leagues this year. The girls water polo team advanced to CIF and play Vista Marietta at El Toro tonight. The boys soccer team went undefeated through league, claiming their second consecutive league championship title, and will play their first round CIF game this Thursday at El Toro against Crespi. Lastly, after a season record of 24-2, the El Toro boys basketball team, league champs with an undefeated league record, will play Chaparral this Friday in the first round CIF match in the CIF Division 1A playoffs. That's all for tonight. Thank you, and as always, go Chargers.
Thank you.
And Jeff, while you're there, I'd like to make an announcement. Jeff is actually the goalie, and quite an imposing goalie for the El Toro's boys soccer team. And much of the success they've had this year was because they had such an intimidating goalie. So congratulations to you, Jeff, and good job. And go Chargers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council, Housing Authority, or successor agency regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the legislative bodies. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comment portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council, Housing Authority, or the successor agency on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available over on the side here by the door. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to any individual being heard by the City Council or the Housing Authority or the successor agency. Madam Clerk, have there been any requests?
Yes, Marcia Rudolph, followed by James Dolan.
Good evening. This is the vector control report, but it doesn't have a vector of the month. I'll have one for you next time. What I wanted to let you know was vector control has 34 members. Every city in the county is a member, has a representation on the vector control board, and then there's one seat that is held by one member of the Board of Supervisors. It runs well because it has an excellent staff, an excellent manager, and it has all kinds of committees. And we just reshuffled the committees. So I am on 2 of the committees, one being the PR committee for public outreach, particularly based upon the report that the grand jury made where they said vector control is an excellently run district, but nobody knows who they are. So we're working on that. And the other one is nuisance abatement. And there's some concerns because there are residences in the city. They're not in the best kept condition, and it sometimes is difficult for staff to get in or to be able to do anything to try and remediate the problem. So there's discussion about the possibility of a sort of a blanket waiver that if vector control sees a situation where we've got vectors involved, we've got a pool that is, breeding all kinds of critters and some of the other things that are very serious, that the vector control staff can utilize this waiver to get into the property and begin to either mediate or get to the owner. So this is still in the development stages, and I will let you know when it becomes a fact. And the vector next month will be the something called the straw itch mite. Can you wait? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
James Dolan, followed by Jim Gardner.
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me come up and speak, and I would like to acknowledge Jeff back here, if he may have left. The liaison, you did forget the El Toro girls basketball team who plays Saturday at Canyon High School in Canyon Country, who's also in the CIF playoffs. They did a fantastic job this year. As a transition from that, I'm here to represent the El Toro High School boys basketball team to talk a little bit about what the program is about, and as well as the other programs at El Toro High School, as well as the other schools in any city. One of the big jobs as parents, and I'm on the booster program, is to raise money for the program. So we're always trying to think of different ways we can raise money. Our budget's between $100,000 and $125,000 a year. We do things from golf tournaments to a boutique where you get 120 vendors. We do snack bars, car washes, all sorts of different things that parents donate their time, just like me, to raise money. It's important, we believe, for the community, for the kids, keep them active, being able to associate with the school, and as opposed to doing other things that sometimes kids may do. So one of the things that I do want to talk about, I mean, there's other things besides just the team. We have to pay for uniforms, and we have to pay for court times, we have to pay for tournaments, we have to pay for scores tables, a bunch of different things that we have to pay for, and every year we put big effort on how we're going to do that. One of the things I want to talk about to the City Council today is to consider is a fundraiser that some of the other cities in the county have done and do pretty well with it. It's actually fireworks stands, as that time's coming up in the summertime. And it's something that, as the program, whether it be the basketball program or other programs at El Toro High School, the parents could work these to actually donate their time to raise money, and sometimes it could be quite substantial and help the program, which means helping the kids doing positive things in the community as opposed to other types of things. The fireworks, I know that I've looked into it. There's 8 cities in Orange County that allow it right now, which includes Costa Mesa, Villa Park, Stanton, Fullerton, Buena Park, Santa Ana, Westminster, and Garden Grove. We do understand that Lake Forest does not allow that right now. We'd like the council to consider that. I think there's a safe way to do this. I mean, quite frankly, most people go to different cities and get them anyways, and do those types of things. But I think done in a good way, it'd be a great way for the community to raise money for the programs and on an ongoing basis to really help, because we get less and less funding every year, as you guys know. And we have a difficult time paying our assistant coaches. We only pay for 2, and we have 6 or 7 or 8 that we actually pay for on our own, because it's important, for the kids to get that type of skills and training. Additionally, there's 60 communities in Southern California that allow the sale of safe and sane fireworks. With that, there's 700 nonprofits. I mean, most of the nonprofits, as they do the fundraising, which we are one of them. I guess the fireworks are sold and approved by the California State Fire Marshal, and they're tested every year. They have their requirements. Anyways, I would just like the City Council, in closing, just to consider taking this up at your next meeting to discuss whether they can be approved, and for people like me and our programs to be have the opportunity to sell the fireworks to make money for our kids. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Gardner, followed by Tim Schoen.
Just to remind everybody too, so you'll see the 3 lights up there, the green, yellow, red. Jim's an expert at this, but when the red light comes on, just if you could wrap it up. So, thanks.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jim Gardner. I live in Lake Forest. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and audience. I came to apologize. Apparently, the last time I was speaking, I speak from notes, but I normally have 10 minutes worth of stuff I want to say. I got to squeeze it into 3 minutes. So, last time I was talking about 2 council members who had done something I thought was unethical, and I didn't name anybody. And I got some complaints, actually, later that I should have named them, because then that was painting everybody, and I shouldn't be painting everybody, and I thought about that, and I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened in the spur of the moment. So for those of you who weren't here, it was the mobile home issue I was talking about, and Councilmember Voights and Councilmember Robinson both had accepted money from the mobile home people and then didn't disclose that when the meeting was being held, and then voted in the manner in which the lobbyists and the owners had asked them to vote. I consider that unethical. I brought it up, but I failed to indicate who it was. So for the other 3 of you, I apologize if you got painted in that same brush, particularly Mr. Nick, who's a paragon of virtue in this particular issue, who's taken money from no one and raised quite a bit of money, mostly his own. Mr. Bass, if you decide to campaign, I hope you follow his lead and not the lead of the other ones. The issue is not taking money. Nobody cares whether you take money. That's completely incidental. The issue is taking the money, getting lobbied by the vested interests, not disclosing it, and then voting the way the vested interests have asked you to vote. That's what, to me, I believe your own city code defines as unethical. It's not illegal because the politicians wrote an exception that makes what ordinarily we would look at and call bribery not illegal and not bribery because it's an exception. But that doesn't mean if it smells like a bribe, if it feels like a bribe, if it looks like that. It certainly gives that perception. So it's my hope going forward, perhaps, Mr. Nixon, you have such a sterling record in this particular area, you'll take the lead in this council doing something. You have a code of ethics. You should have procedures for dealing with when you perceive ethical violations to occur. And again, I apologize for not having been more specific the last time I was here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tim Schoen, followed by Michelle Thomas.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for your time. One of my favorite sayings is, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time, so I'll see if I can get done well before the red light.
Good luck.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm also speaking to you about the same subject Mr. Dolan did, which is the potential sale of fireworks within the city of Lake Forest. I'm a 21-year resident of Lake Forest, and like Mr. Dolan, I've been an active supporter of El Toro High School and its programs. And Jim touched on most of the points, but did want to touch on the fact that as school district budgets have been cut, most of the kids who participate in extracurricular activities need to fund their own activities, which is much different than when I went to high school. So we're forced to find new ways. Jim didn't tell you, but he runs a snack bar and makes a hell of a hot dog. And I chair the golf tournament, and we're also major sponsors of the program. So we donate both our time and our money to El Toro. And the fireworks represent another opportunity for us to raise money for the kids. That for basketball, for example, most of the kids pay between $800 and $900 a year, and we want to make sure that all kids can participate, irrespective of their financial situation or family situation. And then finally, we've done things that typically high schools do in terms of car washes, golf tournaments, holiday boutiques, and we'd also like the council to consider the sale of safe and sane fireworks as another way to meaningfully raise money. I again reiterate Mr. Dolan's request to consider this fundraising opportunity. I thank the council for their time tonight and your service. Thank you.
If I may, real quick.
Real quick.
Does every athletic team at El Toro have a boosters or a foundation that has to raise money for?
Yes, most of them have boosters, particularly, and I'm more familiar with the athletic side, but I think both the drama side of it and I think the band both have boosters, and then I know baseball, football, and basketball do.
Thank you.
Go Chargers.
Go Chargers. Yes.
Michelle Thomas.
Hello, gentle people. Not to beat a dead horse. I am from the El Toro Marching Band program. My son is in 3 of the music programs, and he's in swim. So as a parent, it gets very expensive for me to donate money to help run these programs. This last year, the changes to the state of California fundraising rules have made it very difficult to fundraise. We can only request suggested donations. We can't directly demand or ask for money from the parents. We cannot keep individual accounts, so we can't tell whether or not they donated the suggested donation. This year we've only received 30 to 50% of suggested donations based on the program. Fundraising through fireworks sales would be a great boon to the marching band program. and our ability to run the program. We had to do it in tiers. We have to address our budget in July this next year, and without having those funds for the following year from parents that aren't even there yet is going to be very difficult to achieve. And I know there are great fire concerns because of our beautiful trees and the dry brush and the drought. One of my suggestions would be to have the fireworks, if we do allow them into the city, in a centralized location, maybe in the El Toro High School parking lot, since we're already doing all the 4th of July functions surrounding that school. I think that would be a great place and an easy place to control it. Or none at all, because they could take their fireworks and go someplace else. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Okay. That brings us to item 3, the warrant register. All matters listed under the warrant register are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the warrant register for separate action. Madam Clerk, have there been any requests to remove any item from the warrant register?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Council members?
2 items.
Okay. And when you bring up the items, if you just let me know specifically what the vendor name is on the page, just so that that's clear.
It's not a vendor name.
Okay.
It's on page 28, and it continues to page 29. It's the U.S. Bank. We have the policy committee. There is a charge on here for policy committee airfare for $434.58. That's incorrect. And I'm pulling it so it can be corrected.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what we'd recommend there is that was invoiced but not used, and the voucher can be used later for the airline. So if the warrant could just show that annotation, the vendor could be paid, and then it would show that the credit's due.
But it has $434.58, and it has only one name there, and that was not the price. So that would have to be corrected, because over here for airline fare, you have $49.20, and you cannot go round trip to Sacramento for $49.20. That's why I'm asking for them to be corrected.
The airfare that is charged at $49 was actually the result of having a voucher on file with the airline, because the traveler was unable to go to a previous one. So the ticket was much higher than $49, but the amount charged at the time of the purchase was just $49, because we had a credit on file with Southwest. So the credit card bill for the $49 was accurate. The actual airfare was, I think, approximately $250.
Well, I know mine was $285, and it's listed as $434.58. Somebody tell me something.
Yeah, the $434.58 is actually the aggregate between the 3 items here. So it's not just your airfare. Your airfare is the $285, and then there's also the luncheon meeting and the other airfare in total. So if you look at the line item for yours, it's just the $285, but it's the total of the U.S. Bank that's the $434.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I have asked repeatedly for that to be more distinct and not lump them up like that.
Is that something that we can do in the future? Just make sure that...
Just hit the different button on the computer?
Well, I'm guessing that you need to send... You're trying to send one check.
The problem that I'm having... We have people that come up to this mic and complain constantly about us not being transparent and falsely accuse people of doing things that they are not doing. When you lump it up in that manner, that gives them... I don't do the blog, as all of you know, and I don't even read the paper, because I'm not going to let them blow my head up or deflate it. I'm going to stay focused. But when you lump it up like that, you give them gossip and wrong information to put on a blog, because a lot of the people that do read their blog and you read the paper, they don't take and go back and check. I know what it's supposed to be. I don't have to go back and check because I know it. But you think about the people that do not know, and they really believe that gossip on those blogs are accurate, and they really believe that we are wasting their money or we're doing this and doing that, like some people like to say. So if you would make it more distinct, where for this person, this is how much it was, and this person, and this wasn't used, it'd be held over to the next time when it is used. That would really help out to quench a lot of the lies that goes on these blogs and these papers. Because it wouldn't take that much for you to make that a separate line. You got separate lines on here for other things. So you don't bunch all of them up together. You need to not bunch all the council up together, because that gives the people that don't want to know the facts and the truth that opportunity to twist it and make it look like we're doing something that we're not.
I will ask our director of finance to address that. My best guess is, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're getting an invoice, so we're trying to pay the invoice, and we're just itemizing what's on the invoice into the proper categories there. Is that correct?
Mayor and council members, yes, that is correct. It's U.S. Bank, we're paying it with one check, but breaking down each individual line item. We'll see if we can break down within one company like U.S. Bank here and break them down with separate line items and to just total each one. The way the system runs right now, I don't think we can reprogram the system to do that. But I will look into it, and I'll get back to the city council.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll move the item.
And I'll second that.
Just for clarification here, and then I'll go to the city attorney, but we actually have, I think, an item on the agenda tonight about travel expenses, and we're actually incredibly frugal. We're spending a lot less than what's actually budgeted. Some of us aren't expensing anything. Some are expensing very minor amounts. So if there are those out there that are criticizing, I'd say that we are acting in an extremely frugal manner, and with that, the city attorney may have had some comments here.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Nick and I spoke earlier. There's an invoice to Marina Landscaping. It's on page 21. It relates to work on Regency Park, which we think is within 500 feet of his residence. So he's going to lodge an abstention on that item.
Okay. Anything else?
Move the remainder.
Motion and second to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the consent calendar, items number 4 through 11 of the Housing Authority. So City Council items 4 through 11, the Housing Authority items numbers 3 through 4, and the successor agency items 1 through 5. 3 meetings concurrently tonight. It's very interesting. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or the staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. If you have an item you'd like pulled, please identify the agenda or legislative body it is before. So again, that's the City Council, item 10, or the Housing Authority, item 2. And then, Madam Clerk, have we had any requests?
We've had no requests.
Good. Colleagues, anything you'd like to pull from the consent calendars of the Housing Authority, successor agency, or the City Council consent calendars?
Move the consent.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to discussion items. And City Clerk.
Agenda item 12, Planning Commission interviews and potential appointment for the remainder of a term ending December 31st, 2014, submitted by City Clerk.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any applicants in the audience. Would you please excuse yourself to the activities room? And you're not required to, but it's suggested.
Mayor Robin, while they're doing that adjournment or moving to the other room, I forgot to speak up. The minutes for the successor agency and the Housing Authority, I should have registered an extension because I wasn't here for those meetings.
We can correct that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we adjourn those meetings at this time or at the end?
No,
Those-
not yet.
Okay.
No. All right, we have 10 candidates tonight, so the city clerk will, read off some names, and we'll let you know who's going first, and then we'll have one waiting in the wings, I guess, as well.
The first candidate is Lawrence Arthur, followed by Tom Cagley.
Just for organizing all the applications as well, we're going in alphabetical order, correct? Okay.
Man, this is really impressive group here. My name's Larry Arthur. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for letting me give you 2 minutes of my time, your time. I'm starting off on the wrong foot here. My application, I filled out incorrectly. Item 9 asks if I've ever been involved on a board or a group or anything, and I answered no, because I thought it meant, have I ever been on a municipal or public group or board or planning commission or something like that. The answer to that is no, but the answer to have I ever been on anything is yes. I have been on several boards. Right now I'm a member of the Orange County Board of Realtors, and I serve on the MLS committee, and I have since 2010. Prior to that, my wife and I lived up in Oregon. I was a member of the homeowner association that I lived in. I was the chairman of the Architectural Review Committee. I also served on the board of a yacht club. I was a rear commodore for 2 years. If you've never been involved in a yacht club, you don't know what a rear commodore is, and it's not what you think it is. I was also involved in the theater group in Klamath Falls at Linkville Players. I was on the board there, and I was also on the boards. So that's me. I'm a realtor. I'm semi-retired. I just moved to Lake Forest, bought a home here, very nice community. I saw that they need a planning commissioner on the... Actually, I came into this building looking for a tree trimmer and wound up applying for this, so here I am. I suppose you might have a question for me. I hope, or else you're just going to throw me out of here now.
Well, thank you very much for applying. Some of the council members may have questions, so I'm just going to go from my right to my left. And so, Councilwoman McCullough, any questions? Please.
Being new into the community, what's your first impression of Lake Forest, and what do you think our assets are here?
My impression of Lake Forest is not at all what I thought Lake Forest was. I thought Lake Forest was a smaller, older community. I'm not blowing smoke here. I had no idea it was as nice as it is. It's way nicer than I thought. I remember visiting somebody in Lake Forest in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was dreary and gray, and that's what I thought Lake Forest was. I'm amazed at. I went into Public Works. I met a lady who I believe her name is Kelly, who's in charge of trimming trees, or at least she was active in that, and she came out the next day to the house. I was very impressed with that. I'm very impressed with this.
And our assets?
What are the assets of Lake Forest? To me, I would say that you're an established, mature community that doesn't seem to be going in the direction that a lot of the communities in Orange County are. And I think you're glad you're not going that way.
Thank you.
I'll reserve mine for the last, but Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bass.
just want to add, thank you for your service to the country as a retired Marine. And when you gave your little presentation, I was a bit wondering, because I remembered reading that someone had been on a committee, the Rear Commodore, and I note that you have it on your resume. So I thought maybe we had two actually applying to it in that, but it's just you. Appreciate your observations of the city. I was going to ask about the same question. And other than that, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. My question is just more of, relating with others. So you have, like you said, worked on a homeowners association board and in various capacities. What's been the most troubling and challenging personality for you to deal with, and how did you deal with that situation or that individual?
I have found in those environments that usually everybody's got their own agenda, and everybody's opinion is more important than anybody else's. I've been in sales for most of my life. I feel like I'm a good communicator. I feel like I can at least appreciate the viewpoint of the other person, and by doing that, I can get them to see my viewpoint also. I'm not afraid of going up against somebody who doesn't agree with me, but I'm basically a humble guy. I don't try to bulldoze my way through anything, but I'm fairly successful in communications and being able to see the other person's viewpoint and get them to see mine also.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you applying.
You're welcome. Now I go back out here and watch everybody else?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Pretty intimidating group.
Thomas Cagley.
Mr. Cagley, thank you for applying. We'll give you a chance to speak, and then a few of us may have questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's good to be here. All except for Councilman Mass have heard me before. I was here six or 7 months ago for the same position. Glad to be back. I can't add too much to what my resume says. I'm looking forward to a selected serving on the Planning Commission. I think I could bring a lot of my background and activity could support it. I was thinking about this last night. If I were running for an election for a council seat, I would have a whole list of agenda items to look for and have them all researched. But Planning Commission is a little bit different. There we are. We should be an active force. We can also be reactive force. Have to be prepared to do that. And I've learned so much over the last 7 months in my position with the other entity in Orange County about the necessity of getting over our neighbors, Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo, Irvine in particular. I see a lot of challenges in Irvine. Being our close neighbor with the development of the Great Park and the 10,000 homes they plan to build there. The expansion of the music jail facility concerns me, and as I said at the last time I appeared before you, the matter of having water in the future for development in Southern California is really getting to be a heads-on issue we have to look at. And frankly, that's all I want to say about myself. My resume said about everything, so I'll be happy to entertain your questions and try to answer them.
Great, thank you. Okay. Councilman Voights.
I have nothing. I remember you did a great job last time, and thank you for your service, and I'm pleased that you applied again, so thank you for that, and good luck.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Colonel.
Thank you.
How is grand jury? I'm just wondering.
It's very interesting work. I would encourage anybody that's got the time and willing to work for $50 a day to do it, but you have to be prepared to work at it, because it's not, you just don't sit down there and drink coffee and eat donuts, believe me. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I cannot talk about too much of it, of course, because of contempt of court worries. We have had 4 indictments, which I can talk about because they've already been arraigned in court. The first was in October, and that was 48 Mexican Mafia members we indicted on drug charges within the jail system. That's kind of scary, but that's where they were. And a couple have been real estate fraud issues and an insurance fraud issue. That's all I can talk about.
I appreciate the service very much. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Bass.
I'd like to thank you for your service, not only to the country, but also this county and willingness to continue to serve. I preface my comment by clearly do not want you to disclose or comment on anything that you cannot with respect to the Orange County grand jury. And I had a friend who served on the grand jury a number of years ago, actually, during the Orange County bankruptcy. But on your service, it's just my guess that sometimes there are, you're not in full agreement initially on an issue or a matter that is before you, whether it's an indictment or something you're researching a project or not. And without disclosing any project or anything out, but when you have these diverse opinions on there, how do you handle that? So what's your approach?
Myself individually or the jury as a whole? First, the jury as a whole is 19 members. Right. You have to have 16 present for any indictment hearing, and of those 19 or 16, 12 have to vote in favor. So you've got a lot of leeway there in order to agree. For myself, we all get along marvelously well together. We really do. We work well together. We study together. We're on 6 different committees. There are 6 committees, excuse me. We each serve on 2 committees. And we help each other out. It's really a mutual, I'm not sure how to phrase this. Well, the biggest advantage is we're all retired for the most part. So we're going through life. We've had to compromise, not compromise necessarily, give up anything we believe in. We've had to learn to get along. It's not a case of it's my way or the highway. That doesn't work. We have a very good foreman. He's a retired school superintendent. But there's never been any personality issues. And that's the biggest thing. We walk into that door, and our agendas, our personality is left at the door because we have to work together. If that answers your question, sir.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Just piggybacking on Councilman Bass' question, I'm going to try to ask the same question of everyone. But so maybe not with the grand jury, but what have been some of your experiences in dealing with strong personalities? In some cases, maybe some that have certain vested interests, maybe friends in the neighborhood or whatever. Trying to work with 4 other colleagues up here can sometimes be a challenge. So maybe you can just explain some of your experience.
Well, my 30-plus years in the Army, 2 terms as a commander of colonel-sized units, you learn to get along with people and how to evaluate staff, who to assign to what position, and how to get warring factions to work together for the same mission. And sometimes that's not a walk in the park, I can assure you, sir. I have served on another planning commission type, the Architecture Review Board in Virginia, and that was several years ago, but that was a 7-member board, and we worked with the planning commission, developers, residents, because we had control over anything within a quarter-mile of a historic district. So residents had to come to us. We had to work with them, make sure we didn't want to stop their development or their growth, make certain that they would do it within the terms of the plan and of the historic district.
In that capacity, would you consider yourself to be the consensus builder, or were you one that...
Yes, I do consider myself that. And again, going back to the military experience, after you leave command, you go into staff, or vice versa. You go in and out of command and staff, and when you're on a staff, you're supporting the commander, you're working with other subordinate commanders, subordinate staffs to make everything work. I think it's an invaluable experience. I would say put that head in my grand jury number 2, and learning how to get along with people.
Well, thank you very much. I think you're relieved at this point. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next candidate is Stephen Campos.
Mr. Campos, thank you for applying. You'll have a few minutes a couple minutes here to speak, and then we'll have a few questions from you.
Great. Good evening, council members. My name is Steve Campos, and I'm a resident of Lake Forest for the last 20 years. I'm active in the community as a COPE graduate. I've graduated from COPE twice. I'm also a Red Cross first aid instructor. I teach classes monthly. I'm an Oso Lake Campmaster, and I work with the Troop 628 as a merit badge counselor. For a few years, I was a landscape architect, and during that time, I got to work with homeowners to implement their vision. I also worked with the county on permitting for retaining walls, gas, and electric. So I got a chance to see how permitting processes actually work. I also had a chance to work with tract level planning. I worked for a company that was building tracts in both California and Florida in the 300 to 350 home size. So I have an understanding of the basics of how tracts are planned, and I've had some exposure to see how that works. In preparing for our meeting tonight, I attended the Planning Commission meeting last Tuesday, and I got a chance to speak with the commissioners after the meeting and get some insight on how the Planning Commission actually works. I was very impressed. I would like to join that team. They were very honest and forthright and gave you some really good advice on how to approach the City Council and also what the Planning Commission actually does. I also enjoy researching things. And before I came to the meeting tonight, I read the entire general plan, and I saw your 6 goals and what you're looking for in the city and how you want the city to grow. And I think I have the vision of what you think the city should be. In closing, I understand that the role of a commissioner is to promote and protect the general plan. That's our primary goal. To protect the distinct image of our city, of lakes, creeks, forests, and open spaces. And also to respond to the vision of the City Council and be responsive to the needs of the Council in executing the plan. My volunteer nature, inquisitive mind, and the ability to work as an active team member towards goals is what brought me to you tonight. I hope to continue the growth of our city and serve the residents of Lake Forest as one of your planning commissioners.
Thank you. And, Councilwoman McCullough, no questions? Okay. Councilman Voights.
As a pretty long-term resident here, your involvement with the community, what do you think our greatest asset is here in the community?
In our community? Yeah. I believe our greatest assets right now are our parks and also the vibrant commercial areas that we have. We need to continue to grow our commercial so that we can bring in additional revenue for the city. But I think we have quite a bit of value in that area as well.
Thank you. And thank you for applying.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
Mr. Campos, thank you for your application, sir. I have reviewed it. I do not have any questions. I wish you good luck.
Thank you so much for your time
Thank you,
tonight.
sir.
Councilman Bass.
Well, thank you for your service in the community, especially in the scouting program. You've been in various positions in that. And as you know, that's a volunteer. I know, I was a scoutmaster, I know how much you get paid for it in dollars, zero. But in working with the young men, a lot. But you also, you know, the challenging part sometimes is dealing with the parents and adults on the committee. Not that you have that same issue on the Planning Commission, but you do have to work with 4 other adults. How have you handled it when you've had you know, differences of opinion on an approach that should be taken?
Well, that's a good question. You know, you need to respect everyone's opinion, but consensus is important. Reaching towards the common goal of what you're trying to accomplish, and then setting aside whatever personal feelings you have against that is the method that I choose most often. I try personally not to bring emotional components into conversation, but focus on the facts and the goal of what we're trying to accomplish. Especially working with parents and their children, they're more concerned about what is going to be the best for my child, not the larger group as a whole, and being able to expand their vision and getting them to see what's best for everyone and getting consensus is the way that I generally work with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Bass asked a question very similar to how some questions I've been asking. No, no problem there. No problem there. So I'll just ask a different one here. What do you see as being our biggest challenge when it comes to planning in the city right now?
You know, after visiting with the Planning Commission, I think we need to go back and take a look at our general plan. Several things that I noticed while I was at the Planning Commission meeting were we were making variances to the general plan for specific items, such as the Baker Ranch setback item, where changing the plan and saying, well, this is going to be the plan for the entire city would make it simpler for the residents and the community as a whole to be able to use our resources. I think that, and one of the things that I really want to accomplish as a planning commissioner is to review the plan and make recommendations to the council to make it simpler, better for our citizens, and more enriching for our commercial environment, so that we can bring in more commercial activity here to the city. With 4,900 new homes coming into Irvine, those folks have to work somewhere, and I think we have the commercial space and the ability to draw some of them here to Lake Forest.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
The next candidate is Robert De Almeida.
Thank you for applying. Appreciate that. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then a few of us will have some questions for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council, city staff, and members of the community. I am Robert Almeida, a 73-year-old urban planner who retired from private practice 10 years ago. The last 12 years I have lived in Forest Gardens, probably the finest senior park in Southern California. And I have a few thoughts to share with you. Urban planning is an art form that requires clarification in numerical terms. What looks good is not always the best choice. A contemporary planner, much like a sci-fi novelist, needs to look into the future to what we call the 20-year horizon. The responsibility of the urban planner is to look into the future, to anticipate unintended consequences, and to recommend the best solution for the long term. Moreover, while the urban planner is looking at the future, they must deal with the political realities of the here and now. Land use decisions can highlight the conflicting expectations of different community groups. The responsibility of the urban planner is to understand the meaning of adopted policies and to strike a fine balance between the interests of the property owner, the adjacent neighbors, and the community as a whole, and to forward those details and recommendations to the City Council for its determination. I have worked on more than 500 projects, some of which have received national recognition and industry awards. Besides the co-founding of the Planning Center, the projects that give me the most pride, or the project that gives me the most pride, is 1,500. It's just 6 miles from this building. It's in the village of Northwood, some 1,500 homes. That's east of Irvine Boulevard in Yale. The center of a network of pedestrian line walkways, we created what we call an urban meadow. And in that urban meadow, we took the entire recreational complex of the community, put it adjacent to Santiago Hills Elementary School, and adjacent to that, we put a park. So when you walk into it, it's a large, huge meadow-like with all the community facilities there. We were also able to secure a recreational easement for the school district, which allowed the school district to use the community's Olympic-sized pool to have the first Olympic swimming program for an elementary school in California. Also, that project was the first substantial contribution of affordable housing to the city of Irvine after they had adopted their housing element, which had a mandatory requirement for affordable housing. For the last 40 years, I have participated in hundreds of city council meetings, planning commission meetings, park, rec, transportation, school board, coastal commissions, board of regents meetings. I understand the process. I have interacted with planning agencies and transportation agencies in 10 states and several foreign countries. I have the experience that prepares me to deal with the most sensitive of political land use issues. I understand the process. I'm interested. I'm well informed. I'm experienced. I'm capable. And so I ask you for your vote.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to questions. Councilmember McCullough? No? Okay. Councilmember Boyce?
Well, thank you, first of all, for applying. And my question to you, what would you consider our greatest asset is here in Lake Forest?
Good question. I said in my letter that I thought the city was well organized, well planned, financially sound, and given its geographic configuration and its resources, I think the city is doing an excellent job.
Good answer. I actually, too, think we're blessed with the location we're in, because I call it we're the gateway to South Orange County.
Yeah, you basically have east-west traffic, very little north-south traffic.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick?
Thank you for your application. I have reviewed it. I do not have any questions. I thank you for being here.
Councilman Bass?
Yeah, I have a question. With your 40 years as in land use planning and 12 years living in the city, on a going forward basis, with your experience in residency here, what would you see as what is your vision for the city?
Well, I call it sustainable prosperity. It's in my letter. You can look at that. And basically, it's very important to maintain the tax base. It's important to reduce the cost of housing over time. It's important to get the maximum efficiency out of your transportation infrastructure. And I know aesthetics is a major consideration for the city, but also I'm more concerned with preventing urban decay.
Thank you.
Great. I'll have the last question for you here. Sometimes it can be challenging when you have 5 individuals with 5 different perspectives and opinions about how something should go. It's really important to me that we don't all necessarily agree, but that we can work together in a collegial way. So maybe you can just give me some examples of some challenges that you've had and how you've been able to overcome them with specific individuals who've been difficult for you to work with.
I've dealt with no-growth cities where it's extremely difficult, where negotiations take a long period of time, and you have to build trust with the members, the staff, members of City Council, Planning Commission, homeowners groups. And you have to keep working at it, and it's important to listen to them, to understand their point of view, to strike a bargain, a compromise that will allow you to move forward. I've got a lot of experience in it. I've been in some of the most political, tough situations. Rancho San Clemente, just the opposite of them. So when I retired, I was completely out of any of the political things.
Well, I appreciate your applying. I think after I retired from that environment, I don't know that I want to jump back into it, so I commend you.
If you allow me, may I end on a humorous note?
Sure.
I just want you to know that I do not know, and I have no business dealings with Frank Underwood or Walter White. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next candidate is Frank Denny.
Mr. Denny, thank you for applying. You'll have 3 minutes to speak here, and then we'll have a few questions.
Thank you very much, and I thank the council for the opportunity to address you. Once again, my name is Frank Denny. I've been a resident of the city for 25 years. My background is not in specifically real estate or appraisal, so I can eliminate some of the concerns relative to how deep my experience goes. However, I've been an executive at both Chrysler Corporation in Detroit, Michigan, as well as the Boeing Corporation. I think my last assignment with the Boeing Corporation has prepared me for this position. As the Director of Facilities Management, I was responsible for over $200 million budget each year, primarily in construction, consolidation of facilities. Obviously, I had a staff, so I'm not going to tell you that I knew all of the requirements of Title 24 of the state code. But every project that we undertook met schedule and underran budget. My real concern is for this city. I feel that we have kind of an invisible identity because we're lodged between Irvine and Mission Viejo. And whenever I talk to individuals about where I'm from, they say, "Where?" I say, that city between Irvine and Mission Viejo. And they, "Oh, yeah." But however, I've seen this city grow, and I have to commend the current Planning Commission and also the previous and current council for seeing that growth and making us competitive. I feel that it's very important to maintain a balance between residential, commercial, and retail, and meld them together with a unity so that we don't look like a bunch of little villages, that we are a unified city, and the architecture and the aesthetics all match, and when you come to Lake Forest, you can be proud not only to live here, but to shop here or to work here. I've lived here, as I said, for 25 years with my wife. My daughter grew up here, and I'm very grateful for being able to stay here. I've had many opportunities to move, but I can't. I just love it. It's great. So there's my pitch on me, and I'll open it up to any questions that the council may have.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman McCullough? Okay. Councilman Voights?
I want to first thank you for applying. My question would be, what do you think Lake Forest's greatest asset is?
Well, I think it's location, because when you look at the corridors that come to, and the El Toro Y obviously brings a lot of transportation through that corridor, right through our city, and if we plan properly, we can take advantage of that particular corridor and making this city a desirable stop for people to shop, people to want to move to, and people to want to work to here because of the transportation, as well as the 241 corridor.
I actually love that answer because I actually have deemed Lake Forest the gateway to South Orange County. Everything going south goes through Lake Forest. So thank you for applying, and thank you for that answer.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick?
Sir, thank you for your application. I have reviewed it. I do not have any questions. I wish you good luck. And again, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, sir.
Councilman Bass?
Yeah, I noticed in your application you're currently a mentor in the graduate school at UCI. So my question revolves around that is, what do you think is, or what is your primary advice that you give to those that you're mentoring?
From experience, it really is to maintain a balance in your life. I found that out a little late in my life. When I was working at Chrysler and being young, I devoted more energy and hours to my work than I did to my family and my extracurricular activities. And I think that anybody that wants to have a total success in their life can't just judge it by how successful they are moving up a corporate ladder. It has to be how well they fit in with their family and the love and caring for that, the friendships that they have along the way, and giving back into the community that where they live.
Okay, thank you.
I have the last question for you. I see that you've been on the board of directors of Normandale HOA. I'm not sure for how long, but I'm guessing some decent period of time.
3 years.
3 years, okay. And as there are many times when I feel like I'm sitting on a glorified homeowners association board up here. So, but I know that it can be challenging, both working with other board members at times who might have specific agenda. Definitely with residents who have issues that they want to bring before you. So, how have you developed as a consensus builder, and just basically what's your personality like in those environments? How do you work with those other challenging, domineering personalities that might come through?
Yeah, I try to use facts as the basis for discussion. A lot of times it will diffuse emotion, and I guess that old saying, "The truth will set you free," is probably real. It is challenging. One of the things in our board that has concerned me for a long time is the residents. We have 150 homes. The residents don't have a lot to see about what we do with their homeowners association fees. We have a lot of common green belts and slopes, and that takes a significant amount of dollars to keep those up, but it's kind of taken for granted because it is part of the community. So convincing them that we are taking their monthly fees and applying them so that it's to their best benefit sometimes is quite challenging. So we've looked for ways in which we can improve, and one of the things we've submitted to the city is a new monument for the entrance. We have a major monument on Regency just off of El Toro, but we want a secondary one that will be at the entrances of the various locations coming in, so they can actually feel, hey, yeah, that money that we're putting in every month is coming back to us in appreciation for our community.
Great. Well, thank you very much for applying. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The next candidate is Hugh Everhart.
Mr. Everhart, thank you for applying. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then a few of us may have questions.
Good evening, Council, staff. It's a pleasure to be back here again. I'll say it's a deja vu all over again. I don't have a lot to add to my packet since I spoke here about 3 months ago. Although it's not in my packet, we talked a little bit about my homeowners association service, my professional service on boards for the Employee Benefit Planning Association and the Disability Employers Coalition. And then I have attended a Planning Commission meeting recently because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was getting into, so I went to the last meeting. And I think it would be a good use of my professional skills as a commercial real estate appraiser, since I have a good understanding of general plans around Southern California, their designs, their intent, as well as zoning, permits, all those things that go into regulating and enhancing the beauty of a city and showing the intent, the direction that a city wants to go with its community build out. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, thank you. Councilwoman McCullough, no questions. Councilman Voights?
Well, once again, thank you for applying, and good to see you again. In the 6 years you've lived here, what do you think that Lake Forest's greatest asset is?
I would say that the greatest asset of this town, this city, is its people and its forward-looking vision. Our model of looking to the past but looking also to the future, I think indicates that a lot has gone on here. We're a relatively young city compared to many in Orange County. But I think the fact that we've had a change within the council over the last couple of years here and a new direction, I think that's important because a city is like anything else with people involved. It needs to grow, change, and develop, and look forward to the future. And I think this city has done a very good job of that while maintaining its financial position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
Good to see you again. Hello, and good to see you again. I've reviewed your application once again, as impressive as I found it to be the first time. Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilman Bass.
I note that you're Eagle Scout and a past assistant scoutmaster. So you've been involved with scout troops both as a youth and as an adult. And this is more as your adult service in dealing with both the young men and the adults. You know, sometimes there's, and it's all volunteer, disagreements with how to operate various programs or projects or campouts and whatnot. How have you dealt with those differences?
That's a good question. In my situation, it was a little bit different because many of the adults involved in the program had been either part of Scouts for a short time or had never been part of Scouts, but they wanted their sons to be a part of the program. And so I was the only one involved with the troop at the time that had an Eagle Scout. So it was a little strange for me because I was used to the scouting experience from being a boy in Scouts, and now I'm learning it from being the adult. And it's a little bit different. Well, it's actually quite a bit different because as an adult, you're used to telling your kids, here's what you do and so forth, and really Scouting is about teaching the boys to make those decisions for themselves and to learn to lead and to do things. So you have to step back. And I was good at all the things like tying knots and knowing how to do different things and not get lost and working with compass and all those kind of things. So I was able to help the adults with that, but I was also able to help the boys with all the other parts of Scouting and leadership and so forth. So it was a little harder for me in the sense that it was a big adjustment, but it was also easier. And I had a lot of people that just said, well, what do you want to do? What do you think we ought to do? And it was very quickly learning to say, well, let's let the boys run it. Let's see what they do. So that was a great experience from that standpoint. I'm glad I did it. I got to see the program from both sides of the coin.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll have the last question for you. Just, and I may have asked this one previously when you were here, but on the Homeowners Association board, how have you dealt with some challenging individuals or some challenging issues, challenging personalities? What's your experience been in dealing with those and trying to help groups overcome those?
Well, I have a sales background. That was my first career, so I've learned a lot about negotiation, trying to get people to have what's called principled negotiation, take the emotions out of things, get back to the matter at hand, try and take the rancor out of the conversation. And it's very much like what you do up here. You may have different feelings about each other, but you are here to do the city's business and to handle that in a professional way. And so Homeowners Association, probably not quite as professionally run, and so that we had some difficult personalities, but it really comes back to biting your tongue, trying to work with that person because you need that person. You need everybody in that group to work together. So that's my experience with it.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next applicant is Barry Fast.
Mr. Fast, thank you for applying. We'll give you 3 minutes to speak here. You don't have to take it all, but you can. And then a few of us will have questions.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. Thank you for having me here today. Again, my name is Barry Fast. I've been a resident in Lake Forest since 1994. I have not been active on any local boards or with any other parts of the city up to this point. A few weeks ago, I was going through the leaflet. I saw the ad for the spot and thought, you know what, now's my time to get involved. Planning Commission Board is something that would very much enjoy because of my background in real estate, going back many years. Been in commercial real estate and residential real estate as of the last 5 years. I've got a very diverse background in all aspects, from development, construction, valuation, planning, on both sides of residential and commercial. I've got a background also in with large corporations that gives me sort of a large, I guess as I say it, a large company, a large viewpoint that I can bring into local issues. As a member of the community here for a long time, I've seen a lot of growth in the city, and I've got ideas about how how things should go to help better our community. I think I have a lot to add to provide a lot of insight to the group to help understand issues, understand people from this side of the counter. That would be a benefit to a conversation as we're discussing projects that come before us. I think it gives me a unique advantage to being both on the commercial development and the residential development. Working on this side of the counter, addressing planning commissions is what I do now, so I have a perspective I can add to the group from dealing with planning commissions in that regard. And again, this is my chance to get involved with the city. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't believe Councilwoman McCullough has any questions, but I think Councilman Voights does.
First, thank you for applying. And what would you think Lake Forest's greatest asset is?
People are very safe and secure in this city. It seems like there's some pretty smart growth that's occurred, conservative growth that I've seen in my time here. The city has looked to be planning properly. I look at the Great Park. I look at what you're doing with some of the large projects in Baker Ranch right now, and whether that's a function of the people that ran those projects or the city saying, let's just make sure we get it right. It seems to be that the city has taken pretty good efforts to make sure that their large projects are done appropriately. So it looks like you got the funding of the city seems to be in good shape, good order, so it appears that you guys are doing a good job, and it's a conservative, smartly growing community.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick?
Sir, I have reviewed your application. I don't have any questions. I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And Councilman Bass?
Yeah, I note that on your application that you've been on the AYSO board for 6 years. What experience from that helped you prepare for this potential position on the Planning Commission?
It's a totally different type of experience, but basically it's following through and getting something done. I don't have a leadership role over there, even though I am a board member. I've run just one of the divisions, but there's a job to be done. I get it done. It's during the months of June and July, there's a lot of compiling, cobbling, taking care of all the parents, all the kids, and making sure everyone's on the right team that they're on. It's a job that needs to get done. I get it done. That's what I've learned. It's just, you're making a sacrifice for your community. It is what it is. I get the job done. At the end of the year, you look at the smiley faces of the kids running around on the playgrounds, look at the parents out there. There's my job well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to piggyback a little bit off of that, but that's always the goal. It's one of our goals is to make sure that there's smiling faces out in the community. But the reality is that with some of the decisions we make, there's some people that are smiling, there's some people that aren't, and so maybe you can explain a little bit of your background in dealing with those challenging personalities where you're trying to do your best, but you just you can't win them over. So what's been your tact? How have you gone about handling that? Either on a board in a close relationship, or maybe with parents on the of the kids on the soccer teams or whatever.
What if I give you one of my projects I'm working on right now in the city of San Diego?
Sounds good.
Okay, we got a project down in San Diego. It's a 4-unit condo. The project is designed per code and being built per code, right, through the city of San Diego code and also the California Coastal Commission. So we're going to take 4 what are right now apartments, make them into condos so we can sell them. So we're getting a waiver of a parcel map. Okay, so we have to go before a local planning group to get their approval to go to the Planning Commission. Well, the local planning group is getting complaints from the neighbors about the height of the project. It's too high. Not that it doesn't meet code, it's just too high, they don't like it. So because of all the feedback from the neighbors, the local planning group does not like my project. But it meets code, yes, we know it meets code, but we're still going to reject your request for a map waiver because we don't like the height of your project. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to get a map waiver approved. We know that, Mr. Fast, we don't like the height of your project, but that's not why I'm here. So the reality is, guys, so let me just see if I get this straight. You're okay, you understand my project meets the code? Yes, it does, Mr. Fast. We understand it's built per code? Yes, it does. We know that the project is continuing to be approved? Yes, it does. But you're going to reject my request for a map waiver because you don't like it. Correct. We got that on? We got that on tape? Yes? Thank you very much, guys. And just move me along to my planning commission. Here's a situation where you got people on the other side who understand the law, understand the guidance, but they're just coming back at me. And in that situation, you just accept what they've done, get the facts out, and move it on to where the decision finally gets made. So what I learned from that is just how to deal with on the other side of the counter. Okay. Not all, are they being reasonable? Well, yeah, they're understanding all the facts of the situation and are making a decision against what the law is, based upon what they view as what the neighborhood wants.
And just follow up on that, just using your example here, how would you deal with that situation if you were one of the decision makers there, but you're in the minority in that case?
There was let's say there was a board of 6 people. I think 2 people voted to push it forward and approve it, 4 did not. So the chair of the board understood that the project does meet plan, and the other 4 voted against acceptance of or approval of the map waiver. So it's 4-2 vote, moved it on to the planning commission. Okay. So I believe that you've got to look at the law and what the guidebook says in that regard, and that's how I would have voted in that situation. That's what the law requires. The law says you have to do. That's the direction I would have gone.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely.
The next applicant is Thomas Luden.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's a real pleasure to meet with you tonight and express to you my desire to be on the Planning Commission. My family and I have lived in the Saddleback Valley for about 40 years. We came here, my wife and I, shortly after we got married, and we've basically came here when the business district consisted of Rockfield and El Toro, and that was it. We've been in the same house for 34 years, and we really enjoyed the quality of life here in Lake Forest. We think this is a really special city, and it doesn't really get the recognition that it needs in the public. And that's one of the reasons I'd like to be with the Planning Commission, see if we can't help raise the recognition of the city, because we don't get the recognition that we need. And I think that that's really important. I would say that the quality of life in Lake Forest has been really good for our family. We have 6 children that are now grown up. 4 of them live within the city with our 12 grandchildren. Not all 12 grandchildren live here, but it's still been a really good experience for them. So other part of my reason for being here is I have a real vested interest in what happens with my children and grandchildren within this city. And I want them to have the very best possible. Several years ago, I became involved with the Lake Forest 2 Master Homeowners Association. I was elected to the board of directors, and I spent my first year as a liaison to the Master Architectural Committee, something most people do not relish. I learned a lot about what made a neighborhood desirable and valuable, and what it took to help people do what they needed to do in order to improve their property and to bring it within the standards that the community association expected. And I felt like we were fairly successful in being able to do that. My subsequent years on the board of directors, I've served as the association treasurer. And that gave me the opportunity to be involved in a major street reconstruction project, which ended up costing homeowners a great deal of money, and it's a lot of fun to go before 50 unhappy homeowners and explain to them why you have to raise their dues assessment and have them leave happy that it wasn't worse. I was involved with a major clubhouse facility remodel. We did that in order to maintain the property so that it increases the property value of the homeowners who live within the association. We felt that that was really important. So we went ahead and did all the effort that it took to make that happen. In the past year or two, I've worked with an electrical cogeneration project for the facility at Lake Forest 2, which has now allowed us to heat 3 swimming pools in the wintertime instead of 1, and it saves us $2,000 a month in electric bills. In my professional experience, I worked on development projects for major restaurant chains and small retail stores. 4 of the restaurant projects I worked on were very high-end restaurants for a prominent restaurant person in Newport Beach. I did another restaurant project that involved a 40-foot pylon sign that ended up with 3 separate owners, and it involved dealing with the city of Riverside, the county of Riverside, the city of Lake Elsinore, and the sign had all kinds of issues. I had to get variances from the city council and other places. It was quite a long project, and I managed to coordinate that with all these agencies and get that done. So I really learned the importance of what variances are, the different things that it requires that you have to do in working with the Planning Commission to get projects to happen. And I was really happy that I could build a relationship with the Planning Commission and get work done that needed to be done to resolve the issues that the owners needed to have done. So I think it's just real important. I mean, if I placed on the Planning Commission, my goal is to work with the residents that come in and get their projects approved, to be considerate and understanding that a lot of times they're coming in with a project that to them is really expensive. In some cases, they are expensive, and they need to have, careful care and consideration. We need to do our homework and make sure we fully understand their project and what they're trying to do, and give them the best possible, review that we can. And that's why I would like to be on the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't believe Councilwoman McCullough has any questions. I think Councilmember Voights does.
First of all, I want to thank you for applying, and good to see you tonight. What would you consider Lake Forest's greatest asset is?
I think it's people. I think it's the people that live here, and I think it's the attitude that people have of trying to get things done. I think this city has done a lot to try and provide the amenities and things that people need that make them happy and improves their quality of life here. I think the sports facility that we're building is really spectacular. I think that will do a lot to improve the community, and I'd like to see more projects like that happen, especially for my children and grandchildren who are active in all these things. And I've seen in a lot of areas when my kids were growing up, we really did not have enough sports facilities within the city to really be able to service them the way they should have been. So I'm glad to see that we're doing that, and those things are happening. And I think that that's really good. But I do think the real essence is our people. I think it's the business-friendly attitude that we like to have businesses here. I think that that's part of the Planning Commission's job, is when you're looking at signage and, and buildings and other types of things that relate to retail, you have to be sensitive to what it takes to make a retail business successful. And that's one of the things that I spent a lot of time doing at the time when I was doing real estate development, for commercial businesses. And I think that that's really important. I think, people will live here if they can earn a living here and if they can do the things that they want to do. And that's the thing I think we need to do that really helps to make the city more prominent and it really improves our reputation.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Ludden, for your application. Thank you for being here. I have reviewed your application. I do not have any questions. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being here.
Councilman Bass.
Yes, I note on your application many things. Well, one I wanted to draw your attention to, and then my question to, is for 2 years you were president of the El Toro High School Band Boosters. I did not have a child in band. They're in sports, but it seemed to be that they had some friends in band, that it was much more time-consuming than sports. But as president for 2 years, usually that rotates after 1 year, I think. But anyway, as president 2 years, it's all volunteers on there.
Yes.
And various, volunteers that, they have things they want to do. And so how did you deal with differences of opinion on how to approach some of the operations of the Booster Club and the administration of the band program itself?
Well, at the time I was the Booster president. I was the vice president for a year before that. And one of the things I did when I was the vice president, I was in charge of transportation. Transportation means that you haul the band trailer around and all the stuff that the kids have to have when they go on their competitions and do all these other things. And I was really fortunate to have a group of people that were really willing to work on that. And as a booster group, we went the extra mile to encourage people to do things. Like if you had a truck and you needed a trailer hitch to be able to pull the band trailer, we would arrange to pay for that. And we were arranged to, because the school district didn't have a lot of money, we ended up funding most of the walk-on coaches. We funded most of the things other than their basic uniforms and just, the very basics of what the school provided. But what I ended up doing is we would spend a lot of time in our meetings explaining what we were trying to do and recruiting people to come in and help, be a part of the program. We usually rotated the responsibility for feeding the students when we were going on trips and things like that. And it really helped to build a rapport with the parents and help them understand why it was important for them to be there. And we tried very hard to do that. I think we were pretty successful. We had very good participation from the parents. Even the ones that went on the trips when they went to Hawaii and places like that, where they basically got no sleep for a week and those types of things. But I really would say that it was working with parents who were really anxious to serve and cared about their kids and what kind of a program that they had. And that's really what we did. We just spent a lot of time working with them and explaining to them and recruiting them and doing that sort of thing. And it was a financial issue, too.
Thank you.
I'll have the last question for you. I see that you've spent 11, well, actually I didn't see how many years. You're on the Lake Forest 2 Homeowners Association board. How long have you been on the board?
I've been on and off the board a couple of times. I've probably been on 5 or 6 years. I can't remember exactly how many.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
I live in that HOA, and I know that there have been some challenges in years past. It seems like everything's going pretty smoothly right now, but who knows what happens when the doors close. I haven't attended very many meetings myself, but
actually, it's gone pretty well.
That's good.
Our meetings now run about half an hour. Our public meeting runs half an hour to 45 minutes, which used to be 2.5 hours in earlier years. So it's come down considerably.
That's good to hear. There's probably plenty of people in this room that would wish that I ran a meeting that efficiently. So, my question for you is: I do recall it's probably been 5 or 6 years now, where there were actually a couple of board members who were suing one another. You don't need to talk about that specific instance. I don't know if you were on the board at the time, but sometimes it can be challenging dealing with board members with different opinions, sometimes different personalities. They're very strong. So what's your experience been in trying to work with those individuals, and how do you try to find consensus in those situations?
Well, I was actually on the board when part of that started.
Okay.
And I left the board because they formed a huge, massive voting group, and they voted a couple of us off, which is kind of the way it works in elections. But during the time I was there, my job was to try and keep everybody working together. And I didn't have a lot of problem personally in getting disagreements with them there. And my goal was just to keep working with them and trying to get the job done. And as the treasurer of the association, my concern was always that they didn't do something that created a financial problem for us. And but yeah, I did. I'd spent a lot of time trying to keep the factions talking to each other, and which is really what it takes.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And
Thank you.
You're free to go take a seat if you'd like.
The next applicant is Deborah O'Connell.
Thank you very much. You'll have a few minutes to speak here, 3 minutes, and then we'll have a few questions for you.
Okay, great. Well, Mayor and members of the council, thank you very much for having me and allowing me to share a little bit about my background with you. My husband and I, along with our 2 teenage daughters, have been residents in the area since 1996. We bought our first single-family home in Foothill Ranch just prior to the arrival of our eldest daughter. When we had our second daughter, we needed a larger home and decided to move to Portola Hills. So I'm a little more nervous than I thought I'd be. We understood when we bought our second home that it was a much larger decision, and we wanted to permanently locate in an area and in a community that was balanced and had the lifestyle that we desired. for our family and family-friendly recreational activities that we enjoyed, all of which we found in Portola Hills. So as you all know, obviously, that Portola Hills and Foothill Ranch were both annexed by the city of Lake Forest, which was a windfall for us. We lived, our home in Portola Hills was next to a dirt lot, which is now Concourse Park.
Yeah.
And so we had, we were thrilled with 2 young children, some toddlers, to have a park by our house. So fast forwarding to 2014, with my daughters now more interested in spending time with their friends than spending time with mom and dad, I feel that I have the time to put my energy and my experience to use in the community that we've called home for close to two decades. So some things I don't know if you're listening to or we're sharing what we'd like to do in the community, but green initiatives are very important to me. I sit next to a water tank and part of the water district and the park, and we see, kind of, maybe some areas where resources could be used more efficiently, perhaps. But I won't talk too much about that. I'll talk a little bit about my qualifications. I know that's important to you. The majority of my professional career has been spent as a real estate professional in telecommunications. In the early days of the telecom industry, most municipalities had no zoning ordinances specific to telecommunications. So I was privileged to be involved in the drafting and development of telecommunications-specific ordinances and zoning codes. Some of them were balanced, some of them were a little burdensome, but it enabled me to just to be involved in community development, trying to balance telecommunications facilities to the communities. As a few years went by and the industry started to mature, I decided to look for opportunities outside of telecommunications, and that took me to the Irvine Company, where I worked in their commercial property development division. Again, doing, for the most part, entitlements. We did managing, the entitlement work was managing everything from the trip counts at the Irvine Business Complex to street widening projects and extension projects. One that at that time was very interesting to me was the extension of Alton Parkway, which we finally got to see last year. So I was thrilled about that. So I just wanted to thank you all, and I appreciate your consideration, and if you have any questions.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilwoman McCullough doesn't have any questions. I believe Councilmember Voights might.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for applying. And my question is, what would you consider Lake Forest's greatest asset?
Lake Forest's greatest asset? Well, it has been the open space. I frequent Whiting Ranch and some of the other open space areas. I think, again, just the kind of the balance that we see. We've got, you see a lot of jobs in the area, a lot of industry. Also, a lot of single-family home development now. It seems like a very family-friendly environment. I think that's a plus.
Well, thank you for your application to the city, and good luck.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I thank you for your being here. I thank you for your application. I have reviewed it. I do not have any questions for you, but I wish you good luck. Again, thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bass.
Yes, thank you for your application. In reading your application and resume, it would appear to me that you've had a number of opportunities to make applications to the City and Planning Commission or county throughout Southern California area. Without naming any specific city or any specific project, just thinking the one that was probably the most difficult for you to work with. And so the question is, how did you deal with that difficult situation?
I think back on it, probably one of the, I won't mention any names, but there was a telecommunications project that we were putting in a park. and it was pretty innocuous for the most part. The antennas were being screened on they were being placed on some street light, some lighting in the park, and existing lighting too, by the way. And it was interesting. It was probably the most well-attended public hearing I have ever been to. There were about 200 people in the audience because of that one zoning permit. And as it turns out, part of the issue was that the city was trying to put it on the consent calendar. They didn't feel that it should be open to public vote or public speechless today. Public participation. And so as it turned out, people were not actually very they thought they were upset about the transmission of the RF frequency, but actually about two-thirds of the people in the audience were really upset about the lights that were in the park because they were bothersome to them. So we just continued to meet with the public. We had a couple of little town hall meetings and walked people through some of the RF emissions issues that they had claimed were the issue. But again, the real issue was the lighting, so we ended up abandoning that project in the end. I don't know if it's a positive outcome, but the way that was handled.
Thank you.
I have a last question for you, and it's just more with respect to personalities. Maybe you can share an experience that you've had, and you don't have to go into specific detail, but dealing with other individuals, strong personalities, and those sorts of things, and how you interact with those individuals. I say on a regular basis up here that we should all feel free to passionately disagree with one another, but in the end, it takes three people to approve something here, and the three change on a regular basis. So it's important to try to leave as much of the personal conflicts or anything like that out of situations. So what's been your experience basically in just dealing with strong-willed individuals, and how do you work through that?
Well, sometimes it's just, it seems to me that's usually more of an issue of maybe a misunderstanding or frustration with the process, or it's not personal usually, and if you can try to avoid letting it become personal, because that's when people do get upset, obviously that translates and back and forth from one individual to the other, and it can kind of escalate. So normally just through listening and really giving the other individual time to state what it is they feel so strongly about, and then just try ask for the same respect and share your side of the your opinion of the issue. And normally it's I haven't had a problem. I negotiate contracts. That's what I've done for a long time. So I think listening has always been key to having a successful contract negotiation.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It's all over with. Appreciate your applying, and take a seat. And I think we just have one more. Is that correct?
Yes, the final applicant is Marcia Rudolph.
I think you know the drill, but we'll have 3 minutes for you to speak, and then we'll have a few questions.
This is deja vu all over again. Something like that, right? Okay. Kind of hinted that it should be something different, and I think this is something that may be different to some of you. For about 30 years before all the cities came on, there was something called the Saddleback Area Coordinating Council, and it was formed by the residents in the valley with using their homeowner associations as their key to representation on this council. After about 10 years of it working, and the county fathers and mothers watching it, they decided that they needed to have some representation for the county. So the county said, okay, South County, we don't know what's going on down there. You guys know what's going on there. You know when the land use plans come through, what you want to do. You've got representation. We're going to start listening to you. They then gave SAC a secretary, Ida Romo, and we went on. I joined it originally representing Aegean Hills, where I lived at the time. This is the first time I've written this down, and I don't think it's complete, but I was involved on SAC that met 51 weeks a year at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and we went through the land use proposals that were going before the county. And if you lived in Lake 2, the Lake 2 rep would have 1 week to come up with a recommendation. And it worked kind of like that for a long time. The projects that I was involved with as president of a Saddleback Area Coordinating Council several times, and a member of the Planning Review Committee that met 51 weeks a year, and I was on it for like 14 years. You might recognize some of these projects. The EIR for Rancho Santa Margarita, Aliso Viejo, Kite Hill, Portola Hills, Foothill Ranch, Foothill Town Center, the jail, and also I was on, and still am on, the Restoration Advisory Board for El Toro Marine Corps Air Station, now the Great Park. So in what I did on SAC was what our Planning Commission does, which is look at everything, talk to the community, look at the proposal and see how it fits in the city and the community, and then come up with a recommendation to the City Council for what should be done. That's what I did on SAC for 15 years, and that's what I'm asking to do for the city. Thank you.
Great. Councilwoman McCullough, any questions? No? Councilman Boyd.
First of all, I want to thank you for applying, and thank you for your service in the past for the city. And in continuing with your varmint control, is that what you call them, the varmints or vermins?
Vectors.
Vectors. Okay. I want to ask, what would you consider Lake Forest's greatest asset is?
The greatest asset that Lake Forest has is its people. There's something special about the Lake Forest people, and I'm not going to denigrate any other community, but I've lived here a long time, and I will tell you that the people who live in Lake Forest, and when I originally came, I lived in Mission Viejo, but the same kind of philosophy is there with our people. Our people are very involved in the community. Tonight we heard about trying to get funding for the band, which my kids were involved in. It's a very good community that's involved in everything that they can think of to get involved in. And I was at a meeting following the big earthquake from Loma Prieta, and they had social workers, and they had first responders, all kinds of people. And they had all of these people, and they wanted to know, what they thought as sort of looking back over the response of the community to Loma Prieta. And the bottom line is, our people are what they were describing. I'm sitting there going, you're describing the citizens in Lake Forest. There when they're needed, involved, and very involved. We wouldn't be a city if they weren't. At any rate,
thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
Mrs. Rudolph, hello and a very good evening to you. Thank you for your application. I have reviewed it. I do not have any questions for you. I wish you the best of luck. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you, Madam.
Councilman Bass.
Well, I want to thank you for not only your service in the committee you just talked about that started 30 years ago, but on the council, especially on vector control. I don't think anyone brings the enthusiasm for that committee and the education, too, that you do.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Well, and I was going to say, and your service is one of the probably least appreciated professions. Not least, but not as appreciated as should be profession as a teacher. With your experience on all these committees, how have you dealt with differences of opinion in terms of reaching some sort of decision or consensus?
I think I come to it, first of all, as though I am passionate and I'm involved and I care very much about Lake Forest and my city and my community and my kids and all the rest of it. I don't get to the point where it becomes the most important thing in my life, to my life. And when you're involved in the political process, there are rules, there are guidelines, there are, as you're mentioning, personalities, and there are projects that come before you, and there are issues that come before you. Tonight, you heard the issue of the fireworks, and you may have a really solid opinion about it, but the point comes to when you have to vote. And when you have to vote, you have to take what is your best opinion of it based on your research, based on your examination of the issues, and listening to the community. And you have to vote. And that vote, once it's made, it's done. And whether you win, whether everybody agrees with you or they don't agree with you, especially when you're on a council or a commission, you have to sort of say, okay, I lost that one. We need to move on. Or, okay, hey, I won, but you didn't. No, you don't do that. It's one of those things where you go through the process, you do the bells and whistles in the process, you do your vote, and what happens when they start counting the votes, you have to be prepared to accept. And that's kind of how I've managed being on the council for 19 years, and I'm back here again. So, thank you for the question.
Thank you for your answer.
I was going to have a similar question, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much for applying. We really appreciate it. And before we take a vote, some of the council members would like to take a quick break. I just want to recommend or suggest to each one of you that for transparency purposes that we just don't have any conversations up here. I want everyone to feel like we're making those decisions and not having any discussions about candidates back here. So thank you. Very brief, so we'll try to keep this to 3 to 5 minutes here.
I know.
front.
All right, before we proceed to the vote, do we have any questions or any comments from the public?
Yes, Jim Gardner.
I'll do this very quickly because I know people want to get on and see what's happening. But you know, with these last appointments that came out several times, we only find out things later. And I'd appreciate, and I'm sure everybody else would appreciate, knowing now from each of you, Jim Gardner, Lake Forest, whether or not anybody, any of the candidates, I'd like to know from you guys, and Mr. McCullough, whether or not any of them have campaigned for you, whether or not they've given you any money, whether or not their brother-in-law has given you any money, whether or not their husband's committee has given you any money. In other words, if you guys have anything, and Ms. McCullough, anything to disclose, I believe everybody should hear that now instead of after the fact. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We've had no additional requests.
Okay. So as far as, maybe you can just explain the process for voting.
Well, utilizing the, Councilmember McCullough?
I don't think it's a part that we have to disclose that. And as you said, you know, practically every time there's something about disclosing. The state government have us to fill out 460s and 700 forms. And if it's not on there of anything, you can always contact them and file on us, and they will come and do a full-scale investigation. We have not had that type of corruption or anything in this city. I don't mind anybody that discloses, even when I give the information, it's not printed correctly or it's twisted. So if you want to have that information on any of the five of us up here, go to our 460, our 700 forms, and most of all, go to the state FPPC and ask them. That is not a part of what we had this time. Thank you.
I just like to say that, you know, there's nobody closer to the people than the city council people, so I kind of make it my job to go out there and meet people and say hi to people and get to know people. So, yeah, do I know many of the Boy Scout leaders of our city? Yes, I do. Do I know many of the AYSO coaches of our city? Yes, I do. And the fact is that if someone gives me donations, it is on my 460. So that's all I have to say on that.
Mayor and Council, absent any different direction, using the same process that we've used in the past, ballots are in front of you, and if you'd like to each council member select one person, I would collect the ballots and tally, and we could repeat that process until a consensus is reached.
Great. Do any of you need any time to review applications, or are you prepared to at least take an initial vote here?
We vote for just one on this round?
Correct, one on this round.
I didn't ask anything during our process, and there were several minutes that I could have used, but I'd like to make a statement before I vote.
Okay.
On our list of people, number one, I didn't need to ask anything. This group of people, even though a couple of you was, 2 or 3 of you were retreads, you did an excellent job. You answered well. I went over your applications a couple of times or so, and for me, I make myself little notes on each individual person. That's the reason I didn't ask you anything, but I want to thank each and every one of you for applying. I didn't want to hold up the process because I didn't have anything to ask you, and anything that I may have needed to know, the others asked, and you answered what I had gathered you'd answer from what you had already put in your applications. But I did want to thank each one of you. You did answer well. You put in little details, and basically you gave me all that I need. So I was ready to vote when I walked in the door. But you don't know who I'm going to vote for. As I stated before, I will not be voting for my best friend, Marcia Rudolph, even though for me, I feel that she is the best qualified. She has helped, and I've been by we've been by each other's side and doing projects all over this county and doing the ups and downs on many things here in South County, and she's been on this council and involved. But because I do not believe in doing favors or supporting in that manner of friends in positions of this nature, nepotism, whatever, that is the only reason that I'm not voting for my friend. And she'll still be my friend afterwards. But there's 4 other votes she could solicit. So I just wanted to make that statement before I left, before we voted, so you wouldn't think I was being rude to you. But you were very thorough. And you didn't put too much junk stuff in there. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll proceed with the vote this time.
We have, each council member voted for a separate candidate, so I'll just read the council member and their vote. Councilmember Bass voted for Thomas Luden. Mayor Pro Tem Nick voted for Tom Cagley. Councilmember Voights voted for Deborah O'Connell. Councilmember McCullough voted for Robert D. Almeida. And Mayor Robinson voted for Stephen Campos.
So we'll proceed with the second round based on those 5 names. We've narrowed it down to that, and so we'll go from there.
May I ask a question?
Quickly, yes.
The names you pick now needs to be one of those 5s? I thought this would be a new round.
That's what you usually done before, Mayor and Council. That'd be up to the council to decide. And maybe, Mayor, you'd want to receive a motion to nominate those 5 and then make it official or not.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to nominate those 5 and proceed forward.
You make a substitute.
Seeing no motion, then I'll open it up for discussion.
I'll make a
There wasn't a motion, so I'm entertaining a motion.
Oh, you're
so
entertaining them.
if someone would like to move forward with that. Okay, seeing none, then I'll open it up to discussion for the process.
May I?
Sure.
Only if I may. Only if I may.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick.
I would think we just, the second round, we should not limit ourselves to people who were there the first round. We should just, it's a new round, so.
So are you making that in the form of a motion?
Yes, if you would.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay.
I'll make a friendly amendment to that.
Sure.
That this round, everybody that gets a vote moves on.
From the first 2 rounds, move on to the 3rd round?
Yeah, well, you just start to clarify this because we got to have a point of elimination of the people that are, to narrow the field.
So what you're saying, let me make sure I have your motion correct. What you're saying in this motion, we can vote for anyone, even the same person, but all the people that gets voted on this time, if there's not 3 votes, all 5 or 4 or whatever, move on to the next round.
Anybody that's
Okay.
gotten a vote out of the first two.
Yeah, that makes sense.
First two ballots.
I will support that motion.
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
I do.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So
The names, once more, you don't need names, just the names that are the first ballots.
Tom Cagley, Stephen Campos, Robert De Almeida, Thomas Luden, Deborah O'Connell.
Okay.
In this round, Councilmember Bass voted for Hugh Everhart. Mayor Pro Tem Nick voted for Thomas Luden. Councilmember Voits voted for Hugh Everhart. Councilmember McCullough voted for Robert D. Almeida. Mayor Robinson voted for Stephen Campos. So using the method that you selected in the previous motion, the candidates eligible to be voted on in round 3 would be Thomas Cagley, Stephen Campos, Robert D. Almeida, Hugh Everhart, Thomas Luden, and Deborah O'Connell. We have a majority decision. Councilmember Voits voted for Thomas Luden. Councilmember McCullough voted for Robert D. Almeida. Mayor Robinson voted for Stephen Campos. Councilmember Bass voted for Thomas Luden. Mayor Pro Tem Nick voted for Thomas Luden. Thomas Luden received 3 votes.
Congratulations, Mr. Luden. I want to thank each one of you applicants for applying. We really appreciate it. And unfortunately, we could only pick one. We had a great field here. I think that was evidenced by the fact that in these first couple of rounds, there were quite a number that were selected. And So I just want to encourage all of you to stay active in the community as much as possible. There's so many different ways of doing that, and I hope it's not the last time I see your face. And I really appreciate your spending the time and being patient with us as we went through this arduous process tonight. So thank you very much. And we're going to take another brief recess just for 1 minute to allow all of you, if you choose to leave, and that way we just kind of keep the rest of the meeting
Just
going.
before we take the rest, maybe if we could have Thomas Ludden stand up, because I'm not sure, there were at least 2 other people that were in the green room or whatever room and didn't get to see who he was, so everyone gets to see who he is or get remembrance of that.
All right, thank you. We're going to brief recess for just 1 minute here.
Thank you all.
Let's just all stay up here. I just want to give them a chance to walk out. You know, I want us to stay. I just want to give them the chance to. I want us to stay. Yes. Sorry.
Man, there were so many good ones.
I thought it was very good.
That brings us to item 13, the Community Traffic Education Forums. Sorry.
Agenda item 13, Community Traffic Education Forum, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Mr. Member of the City Council, I'll actually defer to Mr. Wheeler for a brief presentation on this item.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you. Council had previously directed staff to come back with a proposal for discussion for the traffic forums. Staff proposes 3 meetings to be held by early summer in 3 different areas of the city, divided by basically the 241 and Trabuco on either side of those 2 streets. The proposed format would be simply a staff presentation of general information. Usually the types of questions that we get would be about how the development process works. So that would include some traffic modeling and how we model for and accommodate for development, signal synchronization and future CIP projects. Then we'd go to a breakout session where we'd allow the residents, we'd sit down with the residents, they can talk and brainstorm and be able to solicit any information and have that back and forth conversation. And after that, a question and answer and a wrap-up and a report back of what each one of the groups or breakout sessions had discussed. And that way we have the ability to both educate but listen and have a participatory meeting. Much of the material that we would use, we already use in the Leadership Academy. So it would be a minimal cost preparation for staff to be able to put these together. And again, staff's available for any comment and really to receive direction and feedback back from the City Council on what we had proposed.
Have we received any requests to speak from the public?
Yes, Jim Gardner.
Good evening again, Jim Gardner from Lake Forest. These forums are, having promised the Traffic Commission and then turned that idea down, you've replaced it with this traffic forum. As I understand it, there's no specified location, no time, no date, no real duration, no day of the week. The curriculum, I didn't get a real good sense of the curriculum or the staff or the costs. And I didn't see, in reviewing it, any performance objectives. As I understand it, you're hoping that by telling people what you're going to do, that's going to improve the traffic. Okay, and then maybe you'll get some input from the people. Of course, you've already rejected the traffic committee, which purpose was to get input from the people. So I guess I'm a little lost. Forgive me for laughing. But we're going to save it by the engagement process. That's how we're going to save it, right? And I have to think of the Village Pond Park. That's the last time I remember us using the engagement project, right? That worked out real well. Okay. Let me, I just wasn't really impressed with what was there and this engagement process and the breakouts, and we're going to report back and then we'll go through that. We've just suffered through it with the Village Pond Park, and that's gotten us nowhere after all that time. So I'd like you to either see a better plan, or I'd like you to go back to the original idea, which you thought when you were campaigning was a good idea, which is a traffic committee, and get people more involved. Mayor Robinson just at the end said to the people who were here, the 10 people, many of whom highly qualified, people willing to volunteer their time, he said, don't leave. I can't remember exactly what you said, but we got plenty of things for you to do here in the city. Yeah, like a traffic committee. That would be a good substitute. This does not seem to be a good project to be replacing the possible benefits you would have gotten by a traffic committee. I urge you to go back to the original idea of a traffic committee. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Thank you.
Mayor. Can I ask, I'd like to ask the city attorney something. Can I ask the person a question?
It'd be the mayor's discretion on whether that's appropriate. There's nothing legally wrong with that.
I would prefer that we didn't engage one-on-one. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, I'll
I don't want
give
a
a brief
comment. I
leeway.
need the answer from him. I don't have a comment.
Okay, I'll grant a really short leash.
That's all I want.
Very, very, very short.
I don't
So,
need a long one.
I know, just quick.
Yes, Mr. Gardner, thank you for being willing to come all the way back up here. But I did want to ask you something. In your comment, you said that we, meaning you and whomever else, or if the city or whatever, had been promised a traffic commission. Whom was that promised you that?
Oh, I was talking to the mayor.
Okay, when you do that, could you please be more specific? Because, I'm kind of old. I'm going, I don't remember promising him that.
No, I'm
Thank you
sorry.
so very much. I just would like you to be a little bit more specific, because I'm going, I don't remember promising anybody. I make very few promises,
No.
but I try to keep all that I make. So that's what I wanted to know.
Okay, I was looking at him and I thought,
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that because I didn't know that. So
I thought we understood, but I'm
thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So have there been any other?
There have been no additional requests.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to council for any questions of staff or any discussion.
Yeah, I actually like this. Thank you, Mayor. I like this idea, and I was fully in support of putting this on the agenda, because I think it's a way for us to go out there and hear the concerns of the neighborhoods and of the residents of Lake Forest. And I just was wondering, in your logistics, have you ID'd like different areas of the cities? How do you break this up in quadrants? Because obviously the traffic up in Foothill Ranch would be different than that down by Rockfield and Lake Forest. So,
Yes, thank you. We've tentatively are suggesting that we do something between the 241 and the east, or up the hill, if you will, and then somewhere in between the 241 and Trabuco Road, and then between Trabuco and the I-5 freeway. Now, all this is predicated upon, getting the right auditoriums and room availability and things of that nature. But we thought basically dividing the city into thirds, and they have different and unique characteristics in each area of the city.
and when would you think you'd be prepared to start? And would you have a finish date by the end of summer?
Yes, we'd like to be done by beginning of summer. We think would get maximum attendance by being able to advertise in the leaflet that's shown is well read for all the residents. So I think I have it here, but we have 2 more leaflets. We have the one that goes out, the next one, and then the following one, I believe, hits the homes in May. In May. So that would be the perfect time to be able to hit either a May or a June time frame.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilwoman McCullough?
Thank you, Mayor. I like the concept, maybe because I came from the grassroots when we were still El Toro and didn't have many streets and no stoplights. I like the grassroots. Sometimes it can be quite incumbent, but the people engage and they feel that they are a part and it is their city. So being that I had to go all the way over to the supervisor, Marcia can remember that, all the way over to Santa Ana to the supervisors to be engaged until we got the Saddleback Area Council. I like our citizens to be engaged and give us input. We may not always be able to do it the way they feel, but to the best of our ability. I know the staff works very hard to try and bring forth whatever, and we have created a beautiful city. So I like engaging as many people as possible, and even at the Village Pond, we had a whole bunch of people. Now, it may have not came out like I may have wanted or someone else, but they got a chance to decide what they wanted in their community. I like that. Thank you, staff. Excellent job.
Yeah, the division of the 3 areas seems to make sense to me, and I like the process. But I've looked back over the city's relatively recent history. They've used this sort of deliberative process where rather than having them, citizens in a certain area, especially on park development, come to a council meeting and that, they've set a forum now. It may be here, it may be at a location, it may be at the park itself, whatever works best. But it seems like in this, where you're trying to gather data towards a direction to go, to help us decide on a direction to go relative to this very important issue, that, this is a valid method to gather some data and to go out and listen to people. Sometimes you got to get out of your tower and go and listen to people. And I think this is one of those times. I don't think this is the end of the process. I think this is part of the process. That's all I have to say.
Mayor Pro Tem Nick, any comments?
No, thank you for that.
Okay. I too think this is a good first step here in trying to identify what are some of the issues that the community is talking about. Every couple of years we do a community survey. On the whole, the community seems to be pretty pleased with the direction that the city's going. Sometimes there isn't enough time to get into the nitty-gritty, the very specifics. One issue that does pop up, clearly traffic. And I think that's because we're blessed here in South Orange County to not have some issues that would be much higher on that list if we were to be dealing with them. So I own some businesses. I own a business in the Port of Oakland. In Oakland, maybe traffic's an issue, but it's definitely not the number one when they're the 4th deadliest city in the country, and they're proud of it because they're not number 2. As they were last year. Now they're number 4. So, we're very blessed that we get to, focus on issues like this. At the same time, I think that this is a balanced approach that we're taking. And I'll start with saying that, first and foremost, I think the staff really understands that traffic is an issue that many people in the community are concerned about. And if you go through our agenda for the last 6 months to a year. I've been on this council now for 15 months, roughly. And you'll see a number of agenda items that are traffic-related. You'll see a number of expenditures. Just tonight, on the consent calendar, we didn't really even have a discussion about it, but we're spending jointly with the City of Mission Viejo over $300,000 on traffic light synchronization on Geronimo. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Trabuco. A couple of months ago, we were talking about Bake. And it's not just what we're doing in the community, but also working with our neighbors, Mission Viejo and Irvine. And so, I think that it's important for the community to know what we're doing and what we've already done and what we're about to do. And then we need to take that input from the community about what still needs to occur. And this is the first step. This is not saying that we will never have a traffic committee. This is not saying that we'll never have an ad hoc committee, which was mentioned by a few commenters the last time this issue was on the agenda. It just means that we're trying to identify the problem. Again, when we have that community survey, people are saying traffic is an issue. We want to understand what they mean by traffic. Do they mean traffic on the 405 and the 5? And some people might say there's nothing we can do about that. To a certain degree, that's true. But there are small things that we can do. Some of us, can run for the board for OCTA. You have to be an elected official to be on OCTA. In the past, we've had a council member that was on OCTA. So as we're doing the I-5 widening or talking about toll lanes on the 405, whether you're for or against all of these things, making sure that we have a voice if that's extremely important in the community. If we're talking about traffic issues but on specific roads, that helps us identify the problem a little bit more. It could be just little pocket micro issues. I recently had the opportunity of just briefly speaking to the Emergency Preparedness Academy as they were starting up this year, and met a couple who live right basically at Trabuco and Lake Forest. And they mentioned a real challenge for them is pulling out of Old Trabuco, right behind the 7-Eleven there, okay, onto Lake Forest Drive. So now that could be a specific issue if we find that, well, maybe that whole community there is trying to address it. How can we address that issue? What can we do about it? Maybe there's not a whole lot we can do. Maybe we have physical constraints. Maybe there's something we can do, but now we can identify that issue. Each one of us can have those anecdotal stories, but how do we get as many of those as possible and engage with the community in a substantial way? And so I think this is a great way of doing it, segmenting the city into those three parts. And making sure that we really understand what issues we're talking about. Then, once we've identified what we're talking about here, we can look at how we're going to come up with solutions. And those solutions may be things that Public Works is going to work on. It could be that maybe we do. Maybe we find we really need a traffic committee. But we want to make sure that we know that first before we create another layer of government. When I was campaigning, I said I wanted to see a traffic committee. And as I'm looking at the issue now, on the inside, I'm trying to figure out, does that still make sense? With 15 months of information here, does that still make sense? And this is going to help me make that decision. I haven't made up my mind one way or another at this point, but I'm just trying to gather information, make sure that we can provide solutions for the community as a whole and really address the problems that they're having and not look at this in a very general sense and just say we're having issues with traffic. So those are my comments. I really don't have any questions. The report was thorough enough for me, breaking it into 3 segments and then just making sure that we get it done by the end of summer. And you mentioned also in the report that you want to see the meetings hopefully in successive weeks. So there's a good potential that maybe we're done by the first, second week of June, maybe even sooner. So we'll see. But I like the direction we're going. And at this point, if there aren't any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda item.
Second.
Move the item.
It's motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You say aye? Okay, I didn't hear. So I just making sure. Thank you. Okay, so motion passes unanimously.
Agenda item 14, request for appointment, League of California Cities, Association of California Cities, Orange County, and/or the Orange County City Selection Committee, submitted by City Clerk.
And I see that there's, looks like one position that's open on Association of California Cities, Orange County.
That is correct, and the deadline is May 7th if anyone is interested in applying for that.
Okay. And is that March?
I'm sorry, March 6th.
Okay, March 6th. Okay. So just so that everyone's aware, and there's an opportunity for the second vice president. for ACCOC, and so just want to, I think we all are aware of that, and okay. We need to take a motion to receive and file, or just move on? Okay.
We just move on.
So I think that brings us to city manager comments.
I have nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bass.
Yeah, a couple of brief comments. One is, and this one I could have made last meeting, but I didn't have time, I forgot. Snowfest was a great event. Made even greater by all the families that were there. And, of course, two of my grandsons were there, and they just had a great time throwing snowballs at Grandpa. And, you just can't beat those opportunities to interact with kids and your kids, other kids, and especially grandkids. The other comment I have tonight, there's a third one, but I'll save it to the following meeting, is as I look back at the history of the city, brief as it is, but looking at projects that have occurred, and we tend to all get frustrated with the speed or maybe the lack of speed in which things may get done. I think that the city has had a history of, you had several people who are applying for the Planning Commission saying the greatest strength is the people in the community and their involvement. Well, that makes for a better community. It also makes for the fact that, some things are just going to take a little bit longer than one would like. I'm certainly not known for my patience, but if we look at what has happened in the past and we learn from it, and let me just quickly highlight two. The skateboard park. As I understand it, when that issue first came to the city, it was popular as a trendy thing in cities to do that. Siting, or where you put it, is essentially a critical issue, because there aren't a whole lot of people that want a bunch of skateboarders right in their neighborhood or near their neighborhood. Well, the city was able, through a process that took longer than I think people really wanted, but to find what I consider to be an ideal location. Not only is it away from any facility that would be overly concerned about it or worried about it, and those worries have, I think, been removed by seeing what happened. But not only is it, a number one facility. I was in Alabama in early January, and they knew about it. And the city was able to get the land at no cost. And then fast forward to now, we've all known, we heard some comments in the Planning Commission that, interviews that, the parks, this city had a shortage of parks. You often go and participate in sports in neighboring cities' parks or on school property or something, which is okay, but you kind of like to have, a good park your own. Well, so, before the year's over, there'll be a sports park, that probably, I would, in my opinion, will be better than any other South County park. And the city was able to, through the development process, make it so that there was no tax burden or otherwise on current residents, and also maintain the financial strength that a few of the planning commissioners' applicants mentioned. So while many of us, especially me, get a little antsy and impatient about the speed at which things go. It may take a little bit longer here in Lake Forest, but more of the people are involved by these going out to the community and asking them, and it gets done well, and people are really pleased with the product that comes about. And with that, that's all for my comments today.
Thank you. Councilwoman McCullough?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to do my 1234. I attended Southern California Association of Government, the Housing Community Development. We have now joined the Southern California Association of Government and the Orange County Housing Authority have gotten together to take and do arena reform. The League of California City is already aboard, so those two are working together and then connected with the state. I made sure that we folded in the mobile home issue too. Also, I attended the South Orange County Water Management for the South Orange County Watershed. We don't have anything major going on there, except for we got some research to do, and from that, I'll be able to give you a better report. 3 months, I think it is. We're going to be waiting. Baker Ranch, the Shea Baker project, I was able to attend that. All of these were on the same day, too. And I would like to say publicly, when former Mayor Rudolph and I went over the Obrego Wash Creek on 2 boards on a Jeep, and when they took us and told us their dream. And then when I started seeing the paperwork, this was before we were ever a city. And then when I started seeing, I've seen tons of tentative maps and renderings and stuff. I'm going to tell you, this is one of the projects that I am extremely, extremely proud of. A developer that didn't come in here trying to get things cut or nothing. He knows it takes a price to pay. Stepped up, did his project, and every step of the way, it is 10 times better than I seen before we were ever a city. This project was laid out to us what they were going to do, and then following on when we became a city, the renderings, the tentative map, everything, and that is an excellent project. I mean, it makes you. For me, I'm always proud of my city, even if we do bad. I'm proud of my city. But when I walked in that project, it just all the lights came on. This is what it was about over 20 years ago, and they kept their word and they did exactly what they did. Those are the type of developers we want to trust that we bring to our city, that they do what they say and it comes out even better than what they have proposed it. It was an excellent project. I attended the Senior Citizen Advisory Council and the Senior Citizen Housing Transportation. We had an excellent speaker. They had several people there, and they're working several agencies there that are working diligently on 24-hour shelters and also on people that need assistance, seniors that need assistance to stay in their homes, and also transition them into assisted living and all like that. And they gave an extra report on how the homes were built with very little government money or no government money. Gary Frazier, his name is like a stamp here in Orange County, where he's put on it. He brought someone for every one of the places that he has built, and they're all affordable with covenants on it. That means it qualifies for RENA too, in several cities around. On the Senior Citizen Advisory Council, we had speakers come in there also. We always have speakers at all of that. The Asian American Luno Dinner, I wasn't able to attend it this year. First year I've missed it since I originally started. My husband took ill, but if you ever get a chance to, anyone invite you and you get a chance to go, please go. I try and go to as many different culture things of all the different races and culture in our county and outside also. The highlight of my time was Sunday. I was able to attend Eagle Court. We had, I know you're going to finish up, but I won't steal all the thunder. We had 3 projects that was done in this city by Eagle Scouts. I think our city probably got the most Eagle Scouts of everybody, because we have tons of Eagle Scouts. And when you got Eagle Scouts, that means you got some good citizens, and you got some citizens that's going to volunteer. Because the things you learn, for me, I'm a lifetime Girl Scout. I was a Girl Scout. You learn these things and you carry them throughout your life. When you get ready to do something, you take and you make that decision that is the right thing to do, even if you're standing alone. And I tell you, when you get girls going through silver and gold and you get the boys going through the Eagle Scout, we have a good, solid group of good citizens that's coming forth. So get ready. They're going to do more things than we did. Thank you.
First of all, I'll just say how proud I am to serve on the Lake Forest City Council and the quality of people that we have living in our city. You know, time and time again, I asked what were the major assets of our city, and it is the people. We have great people down here, and what makes our community so healthy is because it's healthy families. The kids are turning out good. And part of the reason they're turning out so good is because we have such great athletics and such great youth programs down here. Here in the city of Lake Forest, we have a after-school program that we fund for the city to keep the kids that can't afford afternoon daycare. We have the Kids Factory. The Kids Factory is actually, we have a teen clubhouse here that we actually bus the kids from Serrano Junior High to come spend the afternoon in the back room in the teen lounge. So the fact is that, you know, I think that the investment that we put into our children, whether it be the skate park or the new Lake Forest Sports Park, which will be the jewel of South County Sports Park, it truly will be. My daughter obviously plays soccer, and I'm on the sports field a lot, and I value that, and it's the talk of at every soccer tournament I go to. There's a lot of people talking about that. Just newly elected to Cal South Soccer is a Lake Forest resident, and he's in charge of Cal South Soccer, which is the largest organization of tournament and kind of the umbrella group that covers all club soccer. So he actually resides here in Lake Forest, and so we have so many good things going on. And this last weekend, I was proud to attend another Eagle Scout Court of Honor, and I'm proud to say that I've never missed but one that I was invited to, and the one that I missed, thank goodness Mayor Robinson was able to go there for me, because it was during my, and Ms. Kathy McCullough, it was because of my shoulder injury, but I take such much pride in seeing the accomplishment of our young people and the dedication and perseverance of getting all of their badges and then attaining that highest award that scouting has to offer. There's not a lot of organizations that talk about On My Honor anymore. And so it's good to be teaching our young boys and our youth that honor means something still, because there is a right and there is a wrong. And the Boy Scouts of America, God bless them, I would fear for an America that did not have the Boy Scouts of America. So this last weekend, we attended with Councilwoman McCullough, as she said, Stephen Stanke, Philip Taki, Alejandro Alvarez. And I'm so proud of them, because the projects they did were here in Lake Forest, whether it be at Rancho Caminada Elementary School, where they built cabinets that cost almost $3,000. They funded it, they painted it, they put it together at Rancho Caminada. And then the other one was at South County Food Outreach. They made a whole new the tables for the distribution and the sorting of the foods. These big wood oak tables. And then the other one was at Abiding Savior Lutheran. They built storage containers for a disaster that will feed up to 300 people for 1 week, 7 days. 3 days. 300 people for 3 days, food and water, blankets. And that's something that's given back to the community. So just like all these people that came before us tonight to apply to give back to our community, these youth are taught to give back to the community. So my hat's off to them, and I was proud to attend that. The other thing I'd like to say that I attended the TCA meeting. I serve for the Transportation Authority for the City of Lake Forest. And I'd like to make a recommendation to staff that we, in the next pamphlet, TCA is going to a cashless They're going to the license plate. You're going to register your car, and they would just get a bill every month for your license plate. They'll take the pictures of your license plate. They'll go through. You won't have to buy the transponder. The transponders will still work, but the fact is the transponders are more importantly for other agencies. Whether you go to the 91 freeway or you go up to L.A., the transponders will still work there. But here in Orange County, we're going to a cashless and less transformers, so we don't have to pay for that. So that's a great step forward. It's going to be state-of-the-art. So last but not least, I'd like to see if I could get a second to a motion that I think that some people brought up tonight, and I think it's important that we realize the burden that's put on the parents that are going their children in high school and junior high and the non-profits out there. And I think it might be a good way for them to actually earn the money. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming here and opening our eyes to that. That the state of California is cutting back more and more to our youth programs, and whether it be athletics or band or even our not-for-profits. I think that if it's feasible, I'd like to see staff put together and bring it back to an agenda item, safe and sane fireworks. If I could get a second for that.
That would be for discussion on...
Yeah, it'd be for discussion.
And would that be in time for this 4th or the following year? That's probably a little bit too much discussion. Sorry about that.
That's what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's just looking for
Okay,
consensus to put it on a future agenda.
I'm willing to put it on a future agenda.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean I'm in favor, but I'm willing to discuss it.
I understand, and I'm not saying that. Yeah, I just think that it's a great idea, and I think it's worth exploring.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Nick, and he asked for an extra minute, so I told him he could have 6.
I thank everyone on the other side of the podium for being here tonight, especially all those who applied to fill the PC, the Planning Commission vacancy. It is undoubtedly a blessing to have a greater number of qualified individuals, qualified applicants, than the number of vacancies. But I cannot help at the same time be somewhat sad, for I could not take up 9 individuals on their offer of help to my hometown. I thank each and every one of them from the bottom of my heart. Again, it's a blessing to have a greater number of applicants, qualified applicants, than the number of vacancies. I thank the staff, as I always do, for they are quite worthy of it. My special thanks to Deborah for once again helping me acquaint local businesses how they can transact with the city of Lake Forest. I thank you so much, Deborah. Again, you continue to help me, and thank you so much. Further special thanks to Madam Clerk for always being there for me, for us, for this city, and in particular the last few days. I realize you've gone above and beyond. You always do, and I thank you so much. My utmost gratitude to Mr. Dunick and Mr. Smith, my city manager, my city attorney, for their ever supportive, ever pleasant demeanor, for your thoughtfulness, for the genuine care that you render. You render me, you render your staff, you render the people of Lake Forest. I could not thank the two of you enough. The second segment of my closing comments, it's in 4 segments. The second segment is that I would like to ask for council consensus. I would like to ask for council consensus to ask the city attorney and city manager to summarize the city of Irvine's local limits on campaign contributions, and to bring that summary back to our council for council discussion. This request needs only 1 additional council member's vote to agendize it. once again, it is for the council to be reported back to a summary of the City of Irvine's local limits on campaign contributions. In my efforts for campaign finance laws, or campaign finance reform laws, to be implemented in the City of Lake Forest.
Okay, so he's asked for consensus. I don't want to have any discussion about the item, but just, does he have consensus to bring it back on a future agenda?
Yes, provided there's not any significant legal research at this point, just providing the Irvine.
I'll let the city attorney speak if he needs to, but typically, if there are just two council members, there's a consensus of two, staff brings back some detail, but nothing, not a significant staff report. They bring back a general staff report so that we can have some discussion about it and then determine whether or not we want to proceed with additional research or we want to, consider an ordinance at that time.
Mayor and Council, I'd agree. That'd be the scope of my involvement, is to just do that much.
All right.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Limited scope.
Great, thank you. The third segment, I wanted to make a quick remark as to our development for dog park. I'll be, for the sake of time, I'll be reading from this prepared text. As many of you are aware, I have been interested in helping to bring an off-leash dog park to Lake Forest. Oftentimes, however, that which we want to occur quickly can take some time to be accomplished. By example, it took the City of Mission Viejo about 10 years to find a suitable location for dog park in its community. While I certainly do not expect Lake Forest to duplicate our neighbors' timeline, I can accept that we will not always meet the expectations of everyone in the community on this matter. Some people will want us to move faster, while others may not share the same sense of priority. Nevertheless, I remain committed to this endeavor and actively monitor its progress. I know that our Parks and Recs Commission has studied this issue at length at the City Council's request, indeed, and that its report will be coming to us in the near future. I also raise questions and receive updates from the staff regularly concerning an off-leash dog park. Based on what I have learned, I am satisfied that the project is moving and progress is inevitable. For those who would like us to move quicker, I ask for your patience. For those who do not share the need for this project, I ask for you to remain open-minded. Ultimately, what we can accomplish on this project will be the right answer for Lake Forest. That was the third segment of my closing remarks. And very quickly on to the fourth and last segment. Today we issued a proclamation designating Lake Forest as a Purple Heart City in honor of our veterans. I would like to be told or learn what it takes to activate the Lake Forest Community Foundation, because if it were to be established, it would help us arrive at a permanent military support committee that could really honor our veterans. So perhaps I need somebody to second me, just so the staff can come back to us to tell us what it takes to activate the Lake Forest Community Foundation. And with that, I'll conclude my comments.
Okay. Similarly, I don't want to have a discussion about the item itself, but if there's some clarification on what he means by the Community Foundation, then we can ask that clarification. But beyond that, I'd just like to determine whether or not there's consensus to put it on a future agenda.
No, I can't support that. The Colonel said he did not want government involved, and I can't. I will respect the Colonel's wishes.
Okay. So, all right. I'll agree to put it on a future agenda for discussion. So,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I conclude my comments. Thank you all.
And I just have some brief comments. Number one, I would like to thank all the applicants. I'm hoping most, if not all of them, have gone home except Mr. Luden. Thank you very much for applying. I'm excited to have you, and even though I didn't vote for you in those rounds, it was clear that you were very qualified, and look forward to you working with the rest of the team there. So congratulations to you. Right after our last council meeting, I had an opportunity to meet with some of the other South Orange County mayors and our county supervisor, Pat Bates, to discuss senior issues. And one thing that has become very apparent, there have been a few stories in the Orange County Register recently, is that we're an aging county. I don't know if everyone's really paying attention to that, but we were a very young, youthful county. Probably 25 years ago, when there was just a lot of growth going, especially here in South Orange County, but we're starting to age. Unfortunately, the city's also, I think I recall reading last year, the city's aging with me. So whatever my age is, that's where the city's at right now. So I apologize to the community. But with all that said, we really need to be focused on workforce housing. That's really important for me. That I was able to move into this town, rent an apartment right before I got married, and my wife joined me a few months later. Within a year and a half, we were able to buy a condo, and then within another year and a half, we were able to move into a single-family home. There's a lot of young people today that can't do that, and they're moving out into the Inland Empire. They're moving out to Arizona, Nevada, and so forth. I don't want to see that continue. I want to make sure that we're providing workforce housing for the entire community. We want. I think Mr. Luden mentioned that his kids and grandkids live here in town. We want that to be an attainable goal. And so, with all that said, I had the pleasure of going to the grand opening of Baker Ranch, which a few of the other council members also attended. I think almost all of us, if not all of us. It's one of those mixed-use developments where you've got low-income housing, you've got apartments, you've got some condo, townhome, and then single-family homes on some large lots that'll have incredible views. You got a little bit of everything, and that's really what it takes to develop a community in my mind. You want to be vested in the community. You want to not just move in there and buy the big house that was your dream, and now you've just moved in and you haven't really been a part of the fabric. I want to make sure that we're providing as a community that those opportunities to really progress through life in a city, and I feel blessed that I've had that opportunity. I hope that we continue to allow that to happen, and so it is a very beautiful community, and as was mentioned, I believe the developers have done a great job. All the developers that are building some new housing here in town, there were no favors that were given by previous councils. There were no great opportunities or anything like that from them. They had to pay dearly to be able to have their property rezoned, whether it was the Bakers or Portola or any other developments here. And that's what's allowing us to build that beautiful sports park that we're going to open later this year. And it's what's going to allow us to build a civic center where we'll be able to have ballet and dance recitals and theater groups and have our city council meetings there and everything else. So, they're providing a community benefit. Is there going to be an impact? There's going to be an impact. We're trying to make sure that can be mitigated. When we're talking about the traffic forums, those developers are paying a pretty decent amount into our Lake Forest traffic model, right, for mitigating traffic here in town. They're the ones that are helping us do some of the things that we're going to do to try to alleviate traffic as much as possible, and potentially fund some of the other ideas that may come up from some of these community forums. So I just wanted to try to take that path there to really for everyone to understand how I feel about development here in town, and that it really should be a partnership between those that own property that want to develop them and then the existing residents, making sure that we're providing a very balanced approach to that, that we've got a balance of residential, office, industrial, and retail, and making sure that that works. And so we're really focused on that. I know the Planning Commission is as well. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared those comments. And thank you very much for another longer meeting than I'd anticipated, but appreciate everyone's patience, and I'll adjourn the meeting.